It's game day.
Touchdown, Ducks.
This is Ducks Game Day Extra. An extra half hour of pre-game coverage.
How blessed are we?
Live from Grand Central Bowl and Arcade. Here's your hosts, Andy Johnson and Anthony Newman on the Fan Sports Network. 105.1 FM and 1080 AM. The Fan.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome in. Happy Oregon Ducks Game Day to you live out at Grand Central Bowl, Arcade, and Sports Bar. We got a lot to get to over the next 2.5 hours. Getting set up. Early morning start time here for us today as we're getting ready to go. Anthony Newman alongside me. As always, buddy, how we doing?
I'm doing good.
We're feeling good after a playoff win last night?
Yeah. Took care of business. It's tough when we have to play these teams that, I don't know. It was 58-7.
Yeah, that's not very competitive.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
And
I saw you guys were playing my PIL brethren yesterday, and I didn't think they had much of a chance
I think
there.
these guys should be in the Columbia Cup and having a chance to win their first game and not have to worry about us, something like that. But it happens. But our kids played well. It was a lot of fun. Now we're on to Jesuit.
It is just wild how quickly this has all gone by, man. I was talking to some buddies 2 weeks ago. It was like senior nights were happening. I was like, what? And that's every fall, right? You get that where it just you show up in August. You're like, here we go, 2 days, let's get going, and then you just blink, and it's like, wait a minute, senior night?
Well, we tell the seniors, you're almost done playing football, guys.
This is it, yeah.
your career is over.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, there was. And speaking of that, we'll get to. We got a lot to talk about over the next 2.5 hours. We're hanging out again, Grand Central Bowl Arcade and Sports Bar. Stop by, say what's up. They opened up early for us this morning. They got some awesome breakfast stuff on the menu, some Bloody Marys. So come say what's up. Football on. For those of you out there with YouTube TV that still can't watch ESPN, guess what we got on our TVs in here? ESPN is on. So if you want to watch ESPN games, come have an early morning cocktail and watch some football. And as always, we're brought to you by Frost Brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. I saw a post earlier this week, and it made me feel sentimental. It's been a long time since I played football, obviously, but to your point on these guys in the end of their run, and it was from a high school football player who said, man, when I get older, I can go play golf. If I'm a basketball player, I can pick up some, buddies and let's go play some 3-on-3. I can play slow pitch softball. If I'm a baseball guy, I can find a way to do it. There's just something about football and the finality to it at that level, especially for 98% or 99% of kids that play. That it makes you emotional this time of year. Of like it's all you've known your whole life, and it's just like that, it's gone. And you're 18 years old, man.
It's really hard because think about it. You wake up every Saturday morning when you're starting when the fourth grade. You're getting in the car, you're putting your helmet on.
Yes.
You're sitting, you got your shoulder pads on. You're getting ready to go. You get out early morning. The grass is a little wet.
A little dew in the grass.
They don't play on grass anymore. Now it's on turf. But
that's true. That's true.
but then all of a sudden, your senior year, if you're not going to go play in college, it's over.
Yeah.
You've been doing it since the fourth grade.
Yeah.
And you're done. And then that's why, a lot of NFL players have a hard time. If they're playing a long time.
Right.
And all of a sudden it's over. They're like, oh, wait, what?
what am I supposed to do now?
Wait, exactly.
Huh? Well, that's all I've ever done, man.
Yeah. I've been, we're told when to go, where to go, all this stuff. And now I got all kinds of free time. Wait, what? What's going on here?
So we're thinking of all the high school kids. If your career came to an end last night, I know we've all been there. It's a tough emotional spot, whether you're Anthony, you played a decade in the NFL, or you're me and you were done in high school, right? The final time you put on a helmet, it hits us all eventually, and it's not easy to handle. We got a ton to get to. We'll start breaking down some games and matchups, and we're going to go behind enemy lines as Oregon is on the road at Iowa. More of a philosophical question to open the show up, Q, and that is, it's a unique situation now in college football where you get 2 bye weeks in a season.
Yeah.
And that didn't used to be the case, right? Back when you played, you get 1 bye week and you get your week off and try and, lick some wounds. Last time they had a bye, they played Indiana at home, and it didn't look great for them offensively. That's the only loss that Oregon has handled or had so far this year on their schedule. I'm just wondering, from your viewpoint, when you get this with your kids and you guys don't have a game, what's the approach? Is it let's look internally of what's not working for us? Is it let's rest up? Is it let's stay physical so we don't lose an edge? Combination of both? I'm just curious how, and I'm wondering to see how Oregon handled the bye week and how it impacts the game here today.
Well, I think with any football team, high school, college, it doesn't matter. In the NFL, you have to get healthy.
Yeah.
Because there's a long season, and towards the end of the season, if you're healthy and you have your dudes, you have a chance to win most of your football games. Yeah. If you're not healthy and you lose a lot of your guys, it is hard. And then another thing is just you go back to fundamentals. You go back to, okay, so when you're looking at film, you go, okay, what did we do wrong? And as a coach, okay, from strategy-wise, okay, should we run that play? Should we do? Well, sometimes it's not about the play. It's about the execution. It's about the kid, if I got outside force, I got to force the ball inside. The guy didn't. The kid didn't. He turned his shoulders, and the guy got outside, and he got pinned.
Right.
So you have to work on those things, and that's what you start working on. Because you're not going to really game plan for 2 weeks against a team. You just don't do that for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
People think, oh, they got 2 weeks to game plan. Well, yeah, they're going to look at it, but not really.
Sure.
They're going to work on what they need to do. They're going to work on their calls, their defense, their offense, running the routes right, catching the ball. I mean, you can have all kinds of offensive plays, but you don't catch the ball. What good is it?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. So it's all about fundamentals.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Oregon, kind of attacked it. I think your point on health is spot on, and there's all sorts of online rumors right now about injuries going through the Oregon locker room. You get to this time of year, that's what you get. None of it has been confirmed yet. I'm sure people will be texting and tuning in this morning to hear what we have to say about it. Nothing has been confirmed, and so until we see a confirmation about any guys that are hurt, I'm not going to talk about it on the air because I remember this happening a couple of weeks ago. And there was a rumor of Decorian Moore got injured, and I remember asking somebody, hey, what happened to him? What's going on? And he said, what do you mean? He was returning punts for touchdowns in practice yesterday.
Yep.
And I said, oh, okay, so that's just an online rumor that kind of spread like wildfire.
Yep.
So we're not going to address that. We'll get to the injury report, and if we hear anything confirmed about guys in or out, we'll let you know as soon as we find out. But I do think it's a reminder until we find out some of those answers of guys who are or are not playing. This is where depth really comes into play for Oregon, and I think it's something that Lanning has talked about all year. They love having above-the-line players. They love having a number of guys that they can count on, and he has bragged about, games where 60-plus guys have played, where 70-plus guys have played.
Yeah.
You go to Rutgers, and almost everybody that traveled got into the game and played a couple of snaps. And I think they do that knowing, hey, at some point later in the year, we know, guys, it's football, man. Guys are going to go down.
Yeah. Oh,
and any chance you get to get somebody a meaningful snap in September or October might end up saving your season in November when you're going to need guys to step up. But every coach and every player who goes through it, you got to always, be ready because it is a next man up mentality. But then it tests your depth. And I think that's the interesting part about where Oregon is at right now as a program, where there might have been years in the past where you lose a key guy or two and you say, man, that's kind of our year.
Yeah.
When you played, your quarterback goes down, right? What happens the rest of the year? That's kind of, it didn't have the depth that you have now, right?
Nope.
Not a lot of guys waiting in the wings in order to step in and fill in. Now Oregon has done such a good job of recruiting and stockpiling talent that even if you are down a guy or two, I think they feel good about their ability to overcome it and to fight through and say, hey, next man up, let's go see what you can do today.
That is the difference. Back when I was playing, there was no depth. It was starting 11, offense, defense, and if somebody went down, we were done. I mean, it was over. Or you had a freshman that some guy, the kid can play. He was pretty good, but it's going to take a couple of years.
Sure.
And then, when you think about this Oregon team, they are stacked. That second string guy can start somewhere else. The third string guy can maybe start or be a backup somewhere else in another D1 school. So they're stacked with players, and the coaches are blessed with that. So you go through the season, and you're not killing your guys. So you usually average 60, maybe 50 plays per game on offense or defense. Mm-hmm. And if you can have your linebackers maybe get 75% of those reps and be healthy going into the end of the season,
right,
you're not killing your guys. You're getting other guys. You're getting other guys development, playing time. Some teams don't have that. They don't have that depth, And matter of fact, just this is totally different in high school. There was a kid on Roosevelt's team last night. He didn't come off the field.
Just the whole game. He played the whole game.
Offense, defense, special teams. He played everything. But back in the day, everybody did that. But we don't do that today.
High school football doesn't
we don't. It's on high school, and I'm thinking he is not going to make it.
No.
I mean, it's just like
this kid,
and he was He was so tired after the game. I had to give him a hug because, like, hey, you're the warrior here. But when teams have to do that, guys get hurt. You said it. It's a contact sport. It's a collision sport. Things are going to happen. So if you're playing every snap, you may get hurt. But if you're not playing every snap, look at our running back group. And Oregon has four running backs. these guys, they're going to stay healthy because they're not carrying the ball 30 times a game, 25 times a game. It's maybe 10 to 12.
It's totally different than what it used to be, man.
Totally
you have that one
different.
bell cow back that you handed to 25, 28 times.
Oh, it's not
in
not
I
even,
formation, and now it's here's
close.
your 7 carries, here's your 8 carries, here's your 9 carries,
Yeah.
and you spread it out. The last thing I'll say on this, and then I'll move on. And again, until we get anything confirmed, and as soon as we find out any information about who is or is not playing, we'll pass it along to you this morning. It is funny in Oregon's history the last couple of years. I remember a handful of games. The first one that stands out to me was when Kayvon Thibodeau got hurt when they were going on the road to Columbus.
Yeah.
And everybody thought, oh, God, there's our best defensive player. He ain't playing. We don't stand a chance in hell of winning. And what happened in Columbus? They won the game.
Yeah.
And then the same thing happened last year where Jordan Birch was probably your best defensive lineman last year. He didn't play against Ohio State.
Yeah, I know.
He got hurt the week of the game, and it became this whole thing that you lost your best defensive lineman, and Oregon won the game again. So next man up. We'll see what happens today. Who's in, who's out. We have no answers for you right now. We're just excited for a fun football game. Now, when was your last year at Oregon? What was your senior year?
That was 87.
So you just missed the Oregon at Iowa game because they played in 1989.
Yep.
Was the last time they went to Kinnick.
I think they won 40-6 or something like that.
They smoked them, man.
They smoked them, yeah. Yes. I just missed that, yes.
We got a little 2-game winning streak against Iowa. Now we got to make it 3 in a row.
Yeah.
And I want to get to coming up next. We'll have some fun with this because I'm sure Russ will give you the update here in the weather report in a second. There is a growing theme right now that seems to be reporting that there will be snow in the second half of this football game today. So we'll talk to Anthony Newman about his snow football experience. Do you prefer snow over rain? Is there a benefit to one or the other? You want neither. Give me 70 degrees of sun.
That's right.
Give me a fast track out here.
Yes.
Sounds like weather's going to play an impact in the game today. We'll take a look back. I know Oregon had a bye week last week, but just kind of put a bow on that Wisconsin win from a couple weeks ago because we haven't been around in a couple weeks. We had the week off last week. We all rested up. We're ready to go. Oregon and Iowa, the kickoff coming up at 12:30 right here on the home of the Oregon Ducks, 105.1 FM, The Fan and the Fan Sports Network. Again, we are live out at Grand Central Bowl Arcade and Sports Bar. They were kind enough to open up early for us today. So stop by, say what's up. We're hanging out until 10:30 this morning, and then the big alumni watch party will happen here this afternoon. They got some great breakfast specials. Bloody Mary's on the menu. Come have a cocktail, say what's up, and get ready to watch some college football on this Saturday. Let's dive into the weather and then put a bow on Wisconsin. We'll get to that coming up next. But now it's time for next game day weather every 10 minutes. Here's Jeff Rust.
Looks like 45 with some fog here in Portland. Look for a high of 60 with partly sunny skies for what should be a nice little Saturday. Should stay dry today with about a 10 to 13 mile an hour wind out of the east-northeast. In Iowa City, it's 45 with rain moving in for the 12:30 Pacific, 2:30 Central kick. Looks like about 43 degrees. Rain throughout the game with wind around 7 to 10 miles an hour. Could dip into the high 30s by the end of the game. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day Weather every 10 minutes.
Pros don't just show up. They prove how it's done, with precision and without shortcuts.
To level up your game. To download
Ducks Game Day. Coors Light. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly on the Fan Sports Network. 105.1, 1080, and the Odyssey app.
All right, welcome back in. Oregon Ducks Game Day rolls on. Oregon and Iowa coming up 12:30 right here on 105.1 FM The Fan. If you're watching on home, you can see it on CBS. We are live out at Grand Central Bowl Arcade and Sports Bar, and as always, brought to you by Frost Brew Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. A quick point of clarification: they are opening at 10 a.m. this morning. We're just here to kind of build the buzz for the day, so we will still be on the air at 10 a.m. So stop by, say what's up. But they are officially opening their doors earlier than normal at 10 a.m. today, and they're going to have all the games on this morning, which are about to kick off here in about 40 minutes or so, and we'll keep you up to date once we get some scores rolling in. We're going to go behind enemy lines and find out more about Iowa around the corner. That's a few minutes away. How many snow games has Anthony Newman ever played in?
Oh, I think probably just 5.
5? Okay, all in the NFL, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we had one. Well, it wasn't a snow game when I was in college. It was snowing, but it wasn't sticking.
Okay, but the snow was coming down.
I'm talking snow coming
Where
down.
at? Where was that one at?
It was in
at
Eugene.
Austin?
Yeah,
you had snow coming down at a game at Austin?
It was snow coming down. But it wasn't sticking. It was just, and then it turned to rain.
Sure, just a little brief period there.
That was one of the first snow games I've ever had. Like, oh, this snow.
This is kind of cool.
But I think, but when we went back to Nebraska, it was cold, but it wasn't snowing. But they had snow on the ground.
Okay.
But it wasn't snowing at the time. But in the pros, Green Bay was 8 below one game.
Get me out of here, man.
Trust me, I was like, it's time to go.
Yeah.
And then in Buffalo, a Monday night game, it was snowing.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, that was tough. The Cleveland, was tough. Nah,
I'm not doing that.
I'm a West Coast kid. Nah.
Well, especially you played in a lot of warm city climates too in your time in the NFL, right? Or dome stadiums or whatever. I mean, it's a little bit different.
So this is the true story. We're sitting there playing. I'm a rookie. Okay, and we're at practice, and this spring practice, though, for the Rams. John Robinson was the head coach, and we're practicing. So we're, in Oregon, I'm used to the rain. It rains and all that
bad
stuff.
Weather, yeah.
And then maybe some, snow flurries, but nothing. Yeah.
Sure.
We had practice one time during spring ball, and it started raining. And John Robinson told the team, hey, guys, all right, we're done. Time to go in.
That's it?
No, told us to go in. Like, I was like, wait, what?
Huh? What?
Wait, it's raining. Not snowing, raining. So the NFL told us to go in. Like, we're done. I don't want nobody slipping out of here.
Seriously?
Messing the growing up. Yeah. Hey, guys, we're done. Yeah, and we were done.
I bet the team was thrilled with that. They're like, wait, what? Day's over?
I'm like, this is how the NFL is?
This is great.
When it rained, we don't practice?
What happens if it rains during a game? What are we supposed to do?
I think it is. And so then
that's fantastic.
But another thing is, like, in Los Angeles, it's 80 degrees in November. We're going back to Green Bay.
Yeah.
It was 8 below.
That's a bit of a culture shock there, I'd imagine.
It was 8 below. Yeah. It was 80 when we left L.A.
Only an 88 difference, not a big difference there.
8 below in Green Bay.
What is this?
I'm like, okay, we got to play and get out of here.
They ever offer you a deal in free agency? You say, nope, I ain't playing here, man. I'm not doing this.
I turned down the contract.
Did you really?
Oh, I wasn't going back there. I don't even have a car to drive back in that stuff.
That is so fantastic.
No Green Bay.
Oh, so we'll see what kind of impact it has today. I mean, look, because you mentioned there was some that fell there in your career. I'm trying to think in my life of watching Oregon football I don't know if I've ever seen snowflakes during a game. It's, it's just not something that you see very often.
No.
Obviously, in the Pac-12 days or Pac-10 days, there weren't a lot of options other than Utah or Colorado when they got added. Outside of that, maybe a Pullman game late in the year, you could get some snow.
Maybe some light flurries.
But just, this is kind of the new reality, right? It's Big Ten football. You're going on the road to Iowa, and so it sounds like weather will be, again, an impact on the game. It should be wet early. And now we got, obviously we fell back here last weekend, right? So you got that hour of darkness that kind of creeps in a little bit earlier. So sunsets, it should be setting sometime around the third quarter. And then they're saying third quarter, fourth quarter, there's a chance that the precipitation turns to snow. And so we might have our first Oregon snow game in quite some time. Now, talk to me about the difficulty in that. Now, I know the technology is totally different, right? Like, I'm sure some of those snow games might have been on an artificial turf situation, right? It's a little bit different when you're playing on carpet and wearing, like, tennis shoes back in the day. Now, they got better equipment here, and Iowa plays on grass. They play on natural grass. But just, I'd imagine as a secondary guy, there's a challenge there of making sure you got your footing and knowing where you're going. And I also wonder, too, I saw somebody bring up a point earlier this week of, since it's going to be a little bit, if that does end up happening in the second half, you might have the game slow down a little bit. And does that allow DBs to be a little more handsy, a little more grabby, because you don't have the ability to break away and guys are kind of moving maybe 2 to 3 miles per hour slower than they normally are?
That's a good point. Good point. You know, when the surface gets wet, we know that the receivers, they can't make those hard cuts.
No, they're double moves and that kind of stuff.
They're kind of tippy-toeing. And then now it's time to get physical with them, because we're in that same spot of we can't really accelerate, but if I can slow you down right now a little bit and buy some time for my defensive ends to get to the quarterback, that's going to be great. But at the same time, you know, when you think about this, snow is different. In the rain, you know, Oregon, it rains in Oregon.
Yeah, we're used to it.
So, we're used to it. They're talking about it's going to rain in Iowa. So?
Yeah. Did you see our last game?
Yeah,
Did you see how that looked? Yeah.
Exactly. When it rains, there's no difference. I mean, the ball's a little slippery and all those things. The wind makes a difference.
Yeah.
Now that's the factor that becomes a problem when, now it's windy. So it's a quarterback trying to throw the football, or the ball may sail on you as a receiver or DB.
Sure.
So that could happen. But snow, I think the thing with snow, it's like it starts to get a little cold. And so here's what we had to do. At halftime, you had to change the stuff that was under your uniform.
Kind of freshen up a little bit.
Yeah, you couldn't wear wet stuff back out there on the field because it was too cold and you'd freeze. Yeah. And so,
especially if you're not playing every down, you're standing over there on the sideline for a chunk of the game. You're going to freeze, man.
But in today's world, you know, all the materials that the kids wear underneath, I mean, it might be snowproof. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's just the game's changed a little bit, man.
It's changed a little bit.
Yeah.
You don't have to wear. I mean, we're wearing 10 long sleeve shirts at the time.
That's all we got, man.
That's all we had. It was real heavy.
Nike wasn't dropping them off by the box low back there. Is that what you're telling me?
We had some Nike stuff, but it wasn't very good at the time.
Man.
You know, so there's not really a factor with the weather conditions being just rain.
Yeah.
Wind is a problem. If the field is covered with snow, that's a big problem with footing.
Yeah.
Now it becomes really slippery, and now you're just running the football.
Yeah.
That's all you're going to do.
Hand it off and try.
Yeah. And it's still hard for linemen, offensive linemen and D linemen. They're trying to block, you know, and trying to get their footing at the same time. Depends on what kind of shoes you're wearing, what's happening. If it's grass, it's going to be a little bit more slippery.
Right.
Yeah, so it could have a factor.
A lot of things to keep an eye on today. Yeah. I think fans at home, we love the aesthetic of it, right? You're sitting down watching snow starts falling during a football game.
Yeah.
There's something romantic about that, like being a kid going out in your backyard. And, running around and playing in the snow whenever you would, see it and when it would happen. And so there's a romantic nature to it from a football fan standpoint, but we'll see if it has an impact on the actual game. And I think you're spot on the wind. The wind ends up being the biggest factor. That was the thing, as we kind of take a look back and put a bow on that Wisconsin win. It was ugly early. And the weather ended up holding off in terms of the precipitation until late in the first half, kind of going into halftime.
Right.
And I think for people who were watching at home, it was hard to quantify, like, man, why is the offense not doing X, Y, and Z? Why are they not pushing the ball down the field? What's going on here? And you ended up staying. I didn't stick around for the start of the game, but I remember, and we're down there doing the pregame show. We had 7-8 people trying to hold the tent down because it was so damn windy.
Yes, it
the
was.
thing's going to blow away. And so you turn a game on TV, and I thought the broadcaster did a terrible job of highlighting how windy it was and how much of an impact that could have on the game. Because you're thinking, why aren't they throwing? Why aren't they doing this? But to your point, I mean, that's the biggest difficulty. A wet ball's a wet ball, and it's hard for anybody to hold on to. But when you got a wind that's swirling, or you got a wind that's going 15 miles an hour this way or that way, there was a highlight that surfaced of him, Dante Moore, trying to throw a ball on a little play-action boot on their first touchdown drive, and he threw one to Decorian Moore, and he started at about 5 yards in front of him, and the ball ended up 7-8 yards behind him. It just blew it 15 yards to the left, and so that's the part that I think, as we put a bow on Wisconsin and look forward to today, you get the wind. It does dictate how much you can push the ball down the field. And this isn't an Iowa defense that gives up a lot of big plays, so maybe they weren't going to do that in the first place. But it's just something to keep an eye on, because if it's blowing in your face or again, the only time it's fine is if the wind's at your back. And then you can just kind of let one sail and, hey, go run underneath it, Malik. Let's see how far down there you can get. But side to side in your face, man, that's hard stuff to do to throw a football in.
Well, and then the kicking game becomes a problem.
Kicking game, absolutely, man.
In the wind.
Yeah. And you saw that. I thought it was a good display of Oregon having to kind of play a Big Ten game against Wisconsin of like, let's get some field position here. Let's pin them inside the 5. Let's, we're not going to be super aggressive, and that might end up having an impact on today's game as well. We're out at Grand Central Bowl Arcade and Sports Bar having a great time. They open up officially this morning at 10 o'clock, so if you're looking for something to do this morning, if you don't have ESPN anymore and you're looking to watch some of those games, Texas Tech, BYU, I believe, is on ABC or ESPN early this morning. So I'm a YouTube TV guy. I'm trying to figure out how to watch games at home. Thankfully, I'm here this morning, and I got the games, and they're about to kick off here in about 30 minutes, and we'll keep an eye on them. We're going to go behind enemy lines here in a moment, find out more about Iowa and what they're bringing to the table. Let's start diving into this matchup, man. What a pivotal game for Oregon in their season and where they're going to go from here. The month of November has arrived, and Oregon is on the road at Kinnick. We'll start diving in to the matchup coming up next, but now it's time for Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes. Here's Jeff Rust.
It's 45 with some fog here in Portland. Look for a high of 60 with partly sunny skies for what should be a nice little Saturday. Should stay dry with about a 10 to 13 mile an hour wind out of the east-northeast. In Iowa City, it's 46. The rain is moving in for the 12:30 Pacific, 2:30 Central kick. Looks like about 43 degrees with rain throughout the game. Wind around 7 to 10 miles an hour. Could dip into the high 30s by the end of the game. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes.
Get in the zone.
Live from Grand Central Bowl and Arcade, Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day. Coors Light. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
Here's that power formation. Zach Grace as an up back in that eye. And turn it, hand it off. Davison get ready to get the edge in. Cut it inside for the touchdown. Jordan Davison. And Oregon's got a score on the board.
We're getting you ready for today's game between the Oregon Ducks and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Oregon Ducks football on the Fan is brought to you by Coors Light, Decana Dealerships, Philbrook Law, Zoom Care, Bellagio's Pizza, Langdon Farms Golf Club, Wilsonville Toyota, Mountaintop Metal Roofing, Victor Rico's Mexican Food, Legends Casino Hotel, Mott's PDX, and Laurelhurst Market Steakhouse and Butcher Shop.
Touchdown, Oregon!
Now here's your hosts, Andy Johnson and Oregon Hall of Famer Anthony Newman on the Fan Sports Network, 105.1, 1080, and the Odyssey app.
Hey, welcome back in. Happy Oregon Ducks game day to you as the month of November is here. Only 4 games to go on the schedule. It's amazing how quickly it goes every single season, and the push to a college football playoff starts today. Oregon showing up at number 9 in the initial rankings on Tuesday night, making up that resume with a win on the road against a ranked Iowa team. Kickoff coming up 12:30 right here on the Fan Sports Network, and we are live out at Grand Central Bowl Arcade and Sports Bar. They open up officially at 10 a.m., and they got the big alumni watch party coming up this afternoon. So if you're looking for a place to come watch some football a little bit later this morning, stop by, say what's up. Once they're open at 10, we're going to be on the air until 10:30, and then, of course, stick around and watch the Duck game that kicks off at 12:30. We're going to hear from Kirk Ferentz in a moment, the head coach of Iowa, who has been there an incredibly long time. And that's kind of where I want to start, Anthony, and that is – it's just remarkable to see a guy who, I've seen people say this and report that I am obviously not breaking down all 22 and coming up with a game plan to go against Iowa's defense. But the number of people who say, man, if I game plan against Kirk Ferentz in 2004 as opposed to today, it's the same thing. Like, it's just doing the same thing. And it's unbelievable because there's so many guys that I think in modern college football, like Dabo is probably an example of this, or Mike Gundy, right? Guys who have been in a place in a long time. Maybe you lose a step, people kind of figure you out, and then you fall back a little bit. Kirk Ferentz have been doing the same thing for 25 years. You know they're good defensively. You know they're going to have a good offensive line. They're not going to give up big plays. It's been the same team for a quarter century, and Oregon's going to have their first chance against Iowa in a long time here today.
He has created an identity.
It's exactly what they got, man.
That's who they are.
You know what it is. You play Iowa, you know exactly what you're getting.
It's funny, and we always talk about that, and we laugh about Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, they're going to play with the two running backs, 2 tight ends.
Right.
They're going to run the ball right in the middle all the time, and then you're going to have your friends going, why do they run the ball right in the middle of the field? There's too many guys there. They throw the football. Like, no, they're not throwing the football.
Nope.
They run the football.
Nope.
And we always talked about their defense. A stout defense. That this football team, they don't make mistakes. They're well coached, and that's what you see is that a lot of times these big explosion plays, they get broken coverages, guys don't cover the right guy, and you're just giving them points. Iowa doesn't give up points.
No.
And that's why they're so solid. Now their offense is not great, they're not dynamic, but they do the job. They move the chains. They're 45% on third down conversions.
That's a good number, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
They get first downs, and so when you have a stout defense that – and it's kind of crazy, too, because there's not like some superstar on their defensive squad.
It's just a bunch of really good players.
They're all – and every one of them is coached well.
Yeah.
They're disciplined.
Yeah.
When you have a team that's disciplined and don't make mistakes, you don't have to have all-star players. You have 11 guys that know their job, do their 111, and understand what they need to do. They're tough to beat. They
really are. And I want to start with them on the offensive side of the ball and for Oregon's defense, right? And just looking at that matchup, because I think a lot of attention has gone to Iowa. We know Iowa's got a good defense, right? We know they're going to give Oregon problems, and we know how good they are in the front seven. I want to start on the other side of the ball. You as a defensive mind of – you look at the numbers for Iowa. You mentioned 45% on third down. That's a great number. A lot of that is when they're in manageable situations and they got a quarterback that can run, right? Their passing offense this year in the Big Ten, in a shocking development, is dead last, 18 out of 18.
I know.
They average 20 yards less passing per game than Wisconsin does, and I thought Wisconsin had the worst offense I've ever seen in my entire life, right?
I know.
But then you look at their rushing attack, and you say, okay, well, how are they going to attack you? Well, let me guess. They're going to run the football. They're top 5 in the conference in rushing yards per game at nearly 200 yards, behind only USC, Michigan, Oregon, and Indiana, who is number 1 in that category. And so I think this is where I'm curious, from a defensive standpoint, you're coming into this game and you're Tosh Lupoi. Is it as simple as just saying, like, hey, Dylan Thieneman and an extra linebacker, you're going to be playing within 7 yards of the line of scrimmage, and if you beat us deep against Brandon Finney or, Obadegwu or Neem Offord, whoever is in that secondary, we're going to play We're going to crowd you at the line of scrimmage, not let you off, and then if you beat us deep, you beat us deep. Is it as simple as saying that?
It's real simple. We're getting more guys in the box, down by the line of scrimmage, behind the defensive lineman. We need more linebackers. Safeties, you're not staying deep this week. You're coming in the box. Corners, you're by yourself. You're on an island. You're going to cover these receivers. You don't have any dynamic receivers. They don't have explosion plays.
No.
They just move the ball down the field. They run the football down your throat. You have to get more guys in the box so they can't block everybody.
Yeah.
And it's that simple. And then you have to have block destruction. Get off blocks. Make the tackles. These guys can have yards after contact when the running backs are running through the holes. Because here's the deal. If you lose on first down, okay, now it's 2nd and 4, well, you have an issue.
Yeah, because then they can do whatever they want in that spot. Run it twice for 2 yards, and there's your first down.
But I am still scratching my head. They're averaging 132 yards per game passing the football. That's in today's world, that's crazy.
It's wild. In 2025 college football, this isn't 1962, man.
I know. They're not throwing the ball at all.
No.
It's crazy. I'm like, okay, so now they're allowing teams to load the box, to tell the receivers, hey, you're going to have to go one-on-one against those DBs. There's no safety help, but we got to run the football. As a defensive guy, I'm going, we have to stop the run. Safeties, everybody. Let's all just come together, hold hands.
You beat us deep. We'll tip your cap. Say, hey, you beat us deep, man.
Thank you.
You did it. How'd you do that? I don't know, but hey.
But right now they're doing it.
They are. They're figuring it out.
They're figuring it out.
Yeah, they don't have a game with their quarterback this year, Mark Gronowski, who was he was at the FCS level last year. I believe he won a national championship.
South Dakota State.
Yeah, he was like the high, whatever they call the Heisman at that level. I can't remember what the name of it is. So he was a hot commodity in the portal, and they got him. Everybody thought, man, maybe the passing attack will take another step, but it hasn't really. I mean, he doesn't have a game this year with over 200 passing yards. He's only thrown 4 touchdowns on the year.
Yes,
the way that he could hurt you is when you look at some of the numbers. Like they beat Penn State a couple weeks ago, for example. He had 130 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground.
Yeah.
And so that's the one caveat that they got now that maybe Iowa's offense hasn't had in years past, where they were limited mobility-wise at the quarterback position, and then it was even easier to stop them. Now you at least have a guy back there
that could run.
To your point, where you get him into 2nd and 4, 3rd and 3, like, all right, here comes a quarterback design run, and we got the best offensive line in football. You're not stopping this.
You're right, and you got 2 running backs to the block.
Right, they're blocking. It's just +1 run game. Good luck, right? And so that's the wrinkle that you got to keep an eye on today. Oregon's got to have to find a way to bottle up Gronowski and not let him use his legs and run all over him, because that is something that Oregon's defense has struggled with at times this year. And then the last thing I'll add just on the defense of how big of a game is this for that defensive line to just eat up blocks, where maybe it doesn't show up in the box score, right? An Amari Washington or a Barry Alexander, using them as examples, where maybe it's not 9 tackles from a defensive lineman, but it's they ate up blocks all day, and so that allows your linebackers and a Thieneman, who maybe is playing down closer to the line of scrimmage. Aaron Flowers playing really good as of late, physical safety coming downhill. It seems like that's one of those things that you look at the box score and you say, man, their D tackles didn't do a ton, but if they're eating up blocks all game and guys are able to scrape free from the second level, that can change what Oregon's defense can do.
Well, let's also understand that, we're talking about how good, Iowa is a football team, and, they run the football, but they're going to face a defensive lineman, 4 guys who can play.
Yeah.
Barry Alexander, these guys, Amarion, it's going to be, it's going to be a battle up front. It's going to be a battle when you have Thieneman coming down as a safety. He's going to play linebacker now. I'm telling you, he's not going to play safety. He's going to play linebacker. And
he's physical enough to do it, too.
Yes,
he can handle that role.
And so it's also going to be a challenge for them as well. And, Indiana has a good defensive line, and they gave Iowa issues. Oregon it could have the same issues.
Yeah.
Oregon's defensive line is stout. They got good linebackers. They're backing them up. It's gonna be fun to watch. That's a good matchup to watch.
Really fun
the
matchup.
The offensive
man.
lineman of Iowa and the front 7 of Oregon.
Yeah, we'll get to the keys to the game coming up in a little bit. That might be the biggest key of them all. You look at the metrics and the numbers and what they're saying. They're saying Iowa might have the best offensive line in the country, and it's a big game for Oregon's defensive line to remind everybody how talented they are and how deep they are and how many guys that they can rotate. Big game for Amari Washington, Barry Alexander, Mateo, Tatum, and anybody else who's rotating in and out. Let's go behind enemy lines and find out a little bit more about Iowa as Kirk Ferentz talked this week, a guy who's been there forever, man. I saw a graphic The last time Oregon and Iowa played, it was in 1999, I believe was the year. He was the offensive line coach, and Dan Lanning was 2 years old, or so, it was 3 years old, or whatever it was. Like he'd been around. Last time they were at Iowa, he's been around Iowa football for a long time, man. Let's hear from Kirk Ferentz coming up next. But now it's time for Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes. Here's Jeff Rust.
46 with some fog here in Portland. Look for a high of 60 with partly sunny skies for what should be a nice little Saturday. Should stay dry today with about a 10 to 13 mile an hour wind out of the east-northeast. In Iowa City, it's 46 with rain showers for the 12:30 Pacific, 2:30 Central kick. Looks like about 43 degrees. Rain throughout the game. Wind around 7 to 10 miles an hour. The temperatures could dip into the high 30s by the end of the game. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes.
When I was in Iraq, our convoy was
Go behind enemy lines. An inside look at the Ducks' opponent from the people who cover them.
Here's the sweep, the fly sweep, and the double. Oh, the ball's loose. Oregon might have a chance and will get on it back at the 23-yard line.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day on the Fan Sports Network, 105.1, 1080, and the Odyssey app.
All right, welcome back in. Oregon Ducks Game Day. Andy Johnson, Anthony Newman hanging out with you until 10:30 this morning, and then we'll send you off to Iowa City, getting closer to kickoff. 12:30 as the month of November is here, and Oregon looking to make that push to a college football playoff. We'll start breaking down the matchup from a couple of different angles, including what Oregon's offense has to do around the corner, and obviously our keys to the game. You're going to hear from Dan Lanning. It is a loaded show this morning, and we are live again out at Grand Central Bowl Arcade and Sports Bar. They open up officially at 10 a.m. Stop by, say what's up. We're going to be on the air again until 10:30, and I hope to see some friendly faces and some Duck fans out here. They got the big alumni watch party going on, and ESPN as games are about to kick off around the country here in 15-20 minutes. Let's hear from Kirk Ferentz, a guy that we just talked about in the last segment. Man, has he been there a long time. It is remarkable, and he's one of those guys similar to kind of Kyle Whittingham. You're wondering, like, at what point is he going to walk away? And he's been at. I mean, when you've been at one place for so long, it's an outlier in college football. You just don't see that very often.
At all,
right?
Today's game.
And I'm sure he's had offers and opportunities to go elsewhere and go coach somewhere else. He's been the head coach at Iowa since 1999, man.
Oh, that's
1999. Remarkable to think about. Here is Kirk Ferentz on Oregon and what they're bringing to the table today.
And, in football, it really tapes your resume. And if you look at Oregon on tape or watch them on TV, obviously, they're just a really good football team in all three phases, do a great job. And I think the bottom line is they're, a really aggressive football team. They're very sound and very, very talented, very well coached. Coach Lanning's done a great job there in, a short period of time. Specifically, you look back the last 2 years, there aren't many losses, on their resume. So they've been really, really playing at a high level. And that's with some new players this year too, and that's been impressive too. They've got, recruited extremely well. They've got, a veteran team, but they've also got a lot of young guys that are involved too, especially in the back end, skill positions, guys that are freshmen that are playing big roles and doing a really good job. So it's just an impressive mix and array.
It's interesting that you look at the matchup for Oregon today, and it feels like they've gotten to the point as a program that when they go on the road, you're going to get the best environment and the best punch from an opposing team, right?
Yeah.
There's been some folks out in Iowa this week that talked about this being the biggest home game they've had in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
They are all in on this one, man, and it's been a sellout for a long time. They're eager for the weather. And this is an Iowa team that showed up at number 20 in Tuesday night's college football playoff rankings, and so they're alive. They're alive for the college football playoff. They win this week. They can go accomplish anything they want the rest of the way. They got USC next week. They're going to have chances for back-to-back weeks with a win over a ranked team. And so there's a lot on the line. But I do think there's it's a cool feeling and also intimidating that you can't just kind of fly under the radar as somebody in a road stadium and just go get an easy win. But also a testament to what Lanning has built, that whenever they come to town, this is Iowa's Super Bowl this year. It's a massive game for them, and their crowd's going to bring it today.
Well, yeah, and I think there's a couple of things. You have some Pac-12 teams coming into the conference, and they're like, oh, wait, who are these guys?
Yeah.
No, these are the new guys. No, we don't like them. They're from the West Coast.
Yeah.
We don't like them. And then it's Oregon. Oregon's coming to Iowa to play in our stadium. This is big time. They get a lot of attention. Hey, let's bring everybody show up. Close up the businesses. Let's all get there and have some fun. And we know it's going to snow. We know it's going to be cold. It's going to be crazy.
So Big Ten football. You can't handle Big Ten football.
We're going to run the ball down their throat. They can't stop us. We're going to play some great defense, and that's what they're looking forward to.
It's going to be so fun, man. Let's hear one more on Kirk Ferentz on Oregon and the team that they're bringing today.
Offensively, I don't even know where you start. They're really good up front, which allows them to do a lot of things. Good quarterback play, good line play. And then they've got, good skill positions, the tight ends. They got it too deep there. It's really impressive. Receiver core is extremely talented. And then they've got three backs that are really, clipping right along, and they're doing a great job there. Defensively, they're really a disruptive team. Very, very aggressive, very talented, very disruptive. And again, well coached on that thing.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see when you look at Oregon's running back rotation today. It seems like Jaden Lamar is going to be out for a while. He hasn't played now in a couple of weeks in a row, and we'll see if he's back at some point later on in the season. But just kind of what that rotation, I feel like we've gone in different spots every week of the year, right? Where early on it's like, man, no, Whittington looks like he's running hard. That's your number one back. And then De'Aaron Hill has his moments where you're thinking this guy's the number one back, and he might be the best back we've had in a long time. And all of a sudden against Wisconsin, it's Jordan Davison.
Yes.
It was just, it's a good problem to have, and we've highlighted that all year. That's one of those things I'm very curious of knowing the physicality of Iowa, what the rushing attack is going to look like, and what back, and maybe it just ends up being a true split, right? Where each of them get 10 carries, and there's your 30 runs for the game, and there's not one guy that you're just going to ride all the way into the ground, and maybe it's a hot hand situation. They've had that at times, but the running back rotation is one I'm interested to keep an eye on today.
I'm a Jordan Davidson guy.
Yeah.
I have a man crush on this kid. I mean, seriously. The kid runs downhill.
Physical, man.
His legs look like pistons when they're going through, when he's running over guys. They're just, high knees, like the old you wouldn't know his name, Roger Craig.
I remember Roger Craig. I wasn't old enough to watch it, but I've seen the highlights.
So his legs would come up. So, I got my bell rung tackling those thighs because they're just like pistons. Jordan Davidson, he's a young guy. He's a freshman, but he knows how to run. He sets up his blocks. And then Noah Whittington, I think this is going to be a smash mouth game. It's going to be hard to use a lot of that speed.
Yeah.
Because if the surface is wet, it's grass, it's slippery. But yet Oregon still has speed with D. Hill. I mean, you like having three different types of backs. But at the same time, I like giving a guy the ball, numerous times. Get him going. He's filling the game. He's in the zone. Don't take him out.
Yeah.
Keep him in there. And sometimes I see when guys are hot, the running back's coming back to the sideline. Like, why'd you take him out?
Yeah, let him get into a rhythm.
Let him go.
The flow of the game, I'm with you on that one. And people have asked, Davidson all of a sudden playing more than De'Aaron Hill. What happened there? And I don't think it's to me. It's just when I watch him, he seems like more of an every down back. Like if I need a guy that picks up a blitz, or if I need a guy he's a lead blocker too, right? So he does a good job in those situations for the other backs. And so it's just easier to play him down in and down out. And I think they're trying to figure out the best way use De'Aaron Hill, because there's been times this year where I think they've put him in and it's become kind of obvious of like,
I know.
Here it comes off tackle. You know where it's going to go. And
Yeah.
then Indiana did a great job game planning for that, get the extra hat on the edge. And so it's easier to play Davidson right now every down, but it doesn't mean there's not a role for De'Aaron Hill and you can't line him up in different ways. We've seen him use him on a reverse earlier this year in a touchdown against Oklahoma State. And so they'll get creative. I'm sure all those guys will play, and they're going to have to bring it today, because we know Iowa's got a good front seven. And let's start diving into that matchup on the other side of the ball. What does Oregon's offense have to do against Iowa today, Iowa's defense, to be successful? That is coming up next. We are live out of Grand Central Bowl Arcade and Sports Bar, hanging out, having a blast. The football games are about to kick off. They open up at 10 a.m. this morning. We'll let you know all the specials and deals that they got going on. But next, we get into our breakdown of this game. But first, here's Jeff Russ with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes.
It is 46 with some fog here in Portland. Look for a high of 60 with partly sunny skies. Should be a nice little Saturday. And stay dry with about a 10 to 13 mile an hour wind. In Iowa City, it's 46 with rain showers for the 12:30 Pacific kick. Looks like about 43 degrees, rain throughout the game, wind around 7 to 10 miles an hour. Could dip into the high 30s by the end of the game. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes.
The matchups, players, and position groups that will impact the game. It's time. It's time for The Breakdown. Brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. When you think of flavor, think of Victor Rico's.
Fade right out to the left. Was it caught? It was! Touchdown! Evan Stewart.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day on the Fan Sports Network, 105.1, 1080, and the Odyssey app.
Sun's starting to come out this morning. Beautiful day here in Portland. And hopefully the weather holds off in Iowa City today as Oregon is on the road at Iowa. Andy Johnson, Anthony Newman hanging out with you. And we still got a ton to get to. You're going to hear from Dan Lanning coming up in a bit. You're going to hear from Joey Harrington coming up in a bit. And obviously we'll have our check-in with Andrew Nimick on recruiting and what he is hearing on that front and what Oregon's been doing. We were just talking about Oregon's ability to run the football. And, it's going to be a challenge today for Oregon's offense for a multitude of reasons. One, Iowa's just got a really good defense, man.
Yeah.
You mentioned it earlier. They're well coached. They're stout up front. Their defensive line does a terrific job. Their linebackers come downhill. Like they love what they have defensively, and all the numbers back it up when you look at what they've been able to do so far this year. They played Indiana, who is one of the best teams in the country, in a dynamic offense, and held them to 20 points. It was a 13 or 10-10 or 13-13 game, something like that, with a couple minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and then Indiana broke a long touchdown and separated and ended up winning the game 20-15. So they've had to face a high-powered offense. I feel like when you look at Oregon's offense today, and maybe I don't want to oversimplify, this is a big one for Dante Moore.
Yes,
it's a big one for Dante Moore to see the field, to understand what they're trying to do, to understand the pressure packages that are coming his way, to take what's there, take your 5-6 yard gains, your 3-4 yard gains when they're available and there's nothing downfield, and just be smart and stay ahead of the chains, because this Iowa defense is the real deal today.
It is, and I think us Duck fans, and I know you do and I do, and sometimes when we watch the Oregon offense, we question ourselves like, wait, what's going on?
Right. Seems like there's more talent here than what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you sit there going, okay, are we as good as we think we are? Are we what's happening? This is the challenge against Iowa, to show, the country who you are as a quarterback, as an offense for Oregon. Will Stein getting his offense together, rocking and rolling, going against a very stout defense, and show the country, what the Oregon offense can do. So this is going to be a challenge that I think Dante Moore wants this challenge.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you look at Dante Moore and their big games, and he's got to show up, he's gonna show up and most of the games do what he needs to do. There's sometimes I watch him in games going like, now, why is he doing that? What's going on there?
Let it rip. Trust your eyes.
Yeah, there's a question. And you think it's the lack of experience, but no, he's been playing a little bit.
Yeah.
He knows what's going on. So there's still a question mark. But at the same time, it's the supporting cast that's going to help Dante Moore. That's what the offensive line, running backs, and receivers.
Yeah. A lot of it, too, you've given up some sacks here the last couple of games. You go back to the Indiana game, the Wisconsin game. They got off to a really slow start offensively. I think some of the Wisconsin game was weather dictated, right? You're not pushing the ball down the field in those kind of wins. And that makes it a lot easier to game plan against you and to try and stop, because you don't have that threat there of a deep ball beating you over the top, and you kind of sit on everything underneath. And so that makes it more challenging. But also, I think the offensive line has played at a pretty decent level this year, man.
Yeah,
A lot of these sacks that they're giving up, some of them have been a running back getting blown up against a blitzing linebacker. Some of them have been, you go back early in that game against Wisconsin, he had guys open. He's just not letting it rip. You just trust your eyes and throw the ball, man.
Right.
You hold on to the ball 5-6 seconds, you're going to give up a sack. And then everybody's, what's wrong with the offensive line? It's like, well, no, the ball's supposed to be out in 3 seconds. And if it is, he's not getting touched. And so there's some of that, I think, of just making him more comfortable. And that's where I'm curious to see, coming off of a bye week, what they did to try and get him again to trust his eyes, trust his instincts, trust what he's seeing, and get the ball out quick and just let guys go make plays. That's been the bread and butter of Oregon's offense under Will Stein, of balls out quick, get it to the skill position guys, and go make a play, right? Everybody used to do that against Bo. He's checked down Charlie. It's an offense that works, man.
That's right.
You're taking what's there, you're taking what they're giving you, and you're staying ahead of the chains, and you're not taking negative plays. And so I think from that point, that's exactly what I'm looking for Dante. And then the other thing I'll add that we just got done talking about is, the bread and butter of the offense today might just be running the football, man. We got a good offensive line. We like our stable of backs. Run the football.
That's right.
And if you can't stop it, we're going to keep running the football until you want to play Iowa football, we'll come play Iowa football.
You're bragging about the running backs.
Yeah.
Oregon, you do have the running backs.
You do.
So use them.
And that was you go back to that Indiana game, I thought they got away from it. When you look at the yard per carry, their top 3 backs in that game.
Exactly.
It was Davidson like 7.4. It was, Noah Whittington averaged almost 6 yards a carry. Lamar, who was still healthy almost. And they just kind of got away from it. They got a little too cute. And so maybe they've learned their lesson there of just saying, you know what, man, we're going to be physical. We can go toe-to-toe. And there's almost a challenge of your manhood playing in a game like this. If you're taking on Iowa, and all week everybody has said, how can you handle their physical? How can you handle Iowa football? And I imagine that's something they take personally in that locker room.
I think the young coordinators in today's game, they want to throw the football always.
It's fun.
It's
sexy.
Very. And it's when you run the football, you create more problems with the defense compared to when you throw the football.
Yeah.
So as a defensive coordinator, if I'm dealing with a team that's just running the football down my throat, I have a problem.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's play action boot off of it, and then everybody's biting, and it's
and it's like, okay, you're gonna throw the ball on 3rd and 1. You're throwing the ball on 3rd and 1. Run it down their throat. What are we doing here?
Under center, hand the damn ball off, get 2 yards, and pick up a first down.
Let's go.
What are we doing, man?
Yeah. So it's but these coordinators they're throw happy. They want to throw the football.
It's fun, man. It's fun and sexy, but it ain't 7-on-7 football at Iowa. I'll tell you that much. It's physical, and we'll see if Oregon can run the ball today. We still got more to break down from this game, and we'll do that coming up next. Breakdown brought to you by Victoricos continues after this on 105.1 FM, The Fan.
Do you owe $10,000?
This is The Breakdown, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. When you think of flavor, think of Victor Rico's.
Justice Low reaches back, grabs that ball, rolls in. Touchdown, Oregon.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day on the Fan Sports Network, 105.1, 1080, and the Odyssey app.
All right, welcome back in live out at Grand Central Bowl Arcade and Sports Bar. They open up officially at 10 a.m. this morning. That's less than an hour away, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to be on the air until 10:30, so 90 minutes to go for us. Kickoff coming up 12:30, top 20 showdown in Iowa City at Kinnick Stadium, Oregon and Iowa. We're going to get to our keys of the game in a moment, and a ton still to get to after that. You're going to hear from Dan Lanning. We'll take a look at what's going on around the Big Ten. USC got a win last night over Northwestern. Wasn't pretty in the first half, but they pulled away in the second half. Let's continue on the breakdown for Oregon and what they're going to have to do today. It is funny because it's something we don't talk a lot about, but it is an area that I know you like to mention and reference that is kind of the forgotten area of football. When you look at Iowa this year, the points per game are up significantly from where they've been in years past. I want to say they're averaging north of 30 points per game. And then you look at the offensive numbers and you say, man, they're only throwing it for 130 yards a game. How are they scoring 30 points a game? And then you dive into some of it and you're like, well, they're basically getting a special teams touchdown every other week, it seems like.
Yeah.
Now, their last game, they also had a bye last week. They played Minnesota at home, and I heard a lot of people say, man, they lit up Minnesota, and their offense was not bad by any stretch in that game. But in the first half, they jumped out to a 10-0 lead, and then they got a pick six from their defense to make it 17-0.
Yeah.
And then a little bit later, Caden Weegan is a name who you need to know this week, returned a punt for a touchdown and made it 24-0. So they're finding other ways to score. And you like talking about it a lot, man. We forget about special teams often, and we don't talk about it a ton. Special teams has to be special today because Iowa, that is an area that Kirk Ferentz has hammered down and become elite at, and they're going to test you in all three phases here today.
Well, if you're a coach and you know that you don't have these dynamic players on offense, you have to find ways to score points. And I'm going to look at my defense like, hey, guys, can you get us some points?
Yeah.
Can you get us some good field position?
Short field, force a turnover.
Yes. And special teams, we need to win. We need to score points. We need to get good field position. We can't give up, punt returns, kickoff returns. We have to be stout. And we have to score on special teams. We have to kick the field goals, all that kind of stuff. That's the sign of a good coaching. That's the sign of these guys understand what it takes to win football games. When you don't have all these dudes on this football team.
Yeah, you got to do it in the
because they don't have a lot of dudes,
yeah.
honestly. But they play well together as a group, and they win with offense, defense, and special teams.
Let me ask you this, and then we'll go to our keys of the game here coming up next. If you're Dan Lanning, we know Dan Lanning loves being aggressive, right? Like that Penn State game, how many times did he go for it on fourth down? Like 5. Early in the game, I feel like every drive, you're just like, this is what we do, this is our DNA, and we're going to be aggressive.
Right.
Does your philosophy change at all today? And say, man, let's play Iowa's game a little bit and field position, and we got a weapon and punter, or you staying, nope, you play your game, be aggressive.
Play always. You create your identity, stay with it.
Stay with it.
Don't walk away from it.
I tend to agree with you there.
Yeah.
Although their punter has become a weapon. He's a fun story, man. Australian, he's got a cool accent.
He does,
yeah. Go pull up an interview of him, man.
Is he really?
They had the fake a couple of games ago.
Should have
had a touchdown pass in the Wisconsin game, but it got held back. He called back for a penalty. So
I know.
He's become a weapon, so maybe we'll need him today in a traditional Iowa game. You got to punt and play some field position, but I'm with you, man. Be aggressive. That's your DNA. Don't change it right now. The Breakdown brought to you by Victor Rico's. They break down your game day meals, the catering, and the ease of the Victor Rico's app. When you think of flavor, think of Victor Rico's. The keys to the game coming up next. We're live out of Grand Central Bowl and Arcade and Sports Bar having fun. The BYU Texas Tech game about to kick off, and we'll keep you up to date on scores around the country. But keys to the game next on 105.1 FM The Fan.
It's currently 45 and cloudy here in Portland. Look for a high of 60 with partly sunny skies. Should stay mostly dry today with about a 10 to 13 mile an hour wind. In Iowa City, it's 46 with rain showers. As for the 12:30 Pacific, 2:30 Central Time kick, looks like about 43 degrees. Rain throughout the game. Wind around 7 to 10 miles an hour. The temperature could dip into the high 30s by the end of the game. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes.
Hey, you, it's your last opportunity.
It's time for the keys to the game. What will drive the Ducks to victory today?
Throws it downfield, and it was intercepted. It was picked. Down the right side, 5-3-2. Did he get there? No, not quite. Dante Manning with the interception.
Brought to you by Wilsonville Toyota. One person, one price. No bull.
All right, welcome back in. Time for Keys to the Game. We'll take a look around the Big Ten here in a moment as we start diving into what Oregon's got to do today to get a win over Iowa. The college football slate is officially kicking off around the country. Texas Tech, BYU, the big game this morning, and we'll keep you up to date on all the scores around the country over the next 90 minutes as we're still on the air out here at Grand Central Bowl Arcade and Sports Bar. Keys to the Game, Anthony, when I mentioned that, first one that jumps out to you was what?
Well, this is a new one.
Oh, we got a new one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Oregon, they need to create on offense explosion plays.
Yeah.
Because Iowa's defense, they lead the nation and not allowing teams to get explosion plays on them. They only have one on the year.
Isn't that wild?
That is wild for that defense. So Oregon, and they live. Matter of fact, I think Oregon might be number one.
And explosive run plays, at least for sure. I know that they are. They're dominant.
Yeah. So they need to get some explosion plays to help that Oregon offense move the football and score some points.
It's a strength on strength thing, man, when you look at it. So Oregon and Iowa this year, Iowa has only given up 15 runs of 10-plus yards on the season.
Yeah, I see.
They've only given up one run of 20-plus yards and one run of 30-plus yards.
Yeah.
That's it all year. Oregon's defense, very similarly, very good. I mean, only 18 runs of 10-plus yards and only 2 runs of 20-plus yards.
Yeah,
so they're right there with them. But to your point on Oregon and that being a strength for them, Oregon's offense on the season has 53 runs of 10-plus yards, 24 of 20-plus yards, and then 10 of 30-plus yards. Those are all number one in the Big Ten.
Yes.
Outside the 10 yards, Indiana leads in that. But 20-yard and 30-yard runs, Oregon is number one in the Big Ten. And so that's a strength on strength, right? Like which one of these things can win out?
Yes.
I'll give you one. And, look, it's so cliche because we can say it every game, and it's always important. Iowa this year, when they don't win the turnover battle, they're 0-2. And when they win the turnover battle, they're 6-0.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. I mean, this is a defense that is opportunistic. You mentioned in the last segment they like setting up short fields and have it, hey, here's a pick. Now we're on the 27-yard line going in. Instead of having an offense that can't throw the ball that's got to go 85 yards to get a touchdown,
right.
Their life becomes a lot easier. That's the number one thing I look at today is protect the football, especially when you're in your own territory. Be smart, and occasionally, if you have to, punt it away and say, man, your offense, go 70 yards if you can, but we're not going to give you anything easy here today.
It's funny. If I was the defensive coordinator for Oregon, I'd say punch the ball out. The ball's slippery.
Yeah.
Let's get the ball back to our offense. Punch the ball out. Get those fumble recoveries. That's you have to play the turnover game. You gotta win it.
Yeah. And Oregon, I thought you go back to that Wisconsin game. That was the biggest concern I think there of like, man, the weather is atrocious and that can end up leading to some wonky plays and wonky fumbles. And they did a great job of protecting the football.
Thank you.
They really did. And they Wisconsin got fortunate because they fumbled it a couple of times, and they just happened to fall on it.
Yes.
There was one that could have been on the 10-yard line going in, essentially, and Oregon has a walk-in touchdown, and said their offensive lineman falls on it. Now, they did have the one, I think, high snap, and that was one that Oregon, kind of derailed one of their drives in the second half there. But other than that, they did a great job. So to your point, protect the football, man, and I like explosive plays are going to be huge in this game. It's two defenses that don't give up a lot of them. It's an offense in Iowa that doesn't create a lot of them, and it's an offense in Oregon that does create a lot of them. And so, I think too, I'll add to that of just for those young DBs out there not falling asleep. I'd imagine that could be challenging when you're playing an offense that's just they're going to run it 38 times if they can. That maybe it can kind of lull you to sleep a little bit of like, all right, I haven't seen a ball in 2.5 quarters, and then all of a sudden you look up and you go, uh-oh, there goes somebody on a route by me.
And also, you think, okay, this receiver's not very fast.
Right, he can't get by me.
Yeah, next thing you know, he's running by you.
Hey, what happened there?
Now you start to panic.
Come on, man.
Yeah, exactly.
So stay awake out there in the secondary because, look, their passing attack is not good, but they, you never know. They hit a deep shot against Rutgers earlier this year, so they have thrown the ball down the field occasionally, not very often, but occasionally. Explosive plays and turnovers, those are our keys to the game. Driven by Wilsonville Toyota, simplifying the buying process. One person, one price, no bull. WilsonvilleToyota.com. Let's take a look around the Big Ten and what happened last night in L.A. and what's going on around the conference so far here early on a Saturday morning. That's coming up next. But now it is time for Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes. Here's Jeff Rust.
It's 45 and cloudy here in Portland. Look for a high of 60 with partly sunny skies. Should stay mostly dry today with about a 10 to 13 mile an hour wind in Iowa City. It's 45 with some rain. As for the 12:30 Pacific, 2:30 Central Time kick, looks like about 43 degrees, rain throughout the game, wind around 7 to 10 miles an hour, could dip into the high 30s by the end of the game. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes.
Big matchups, big plays. It's time to take a look at the scoreboard around the Big Ten and the rest of college football. Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day on the Fan Sports Network, 105.1, 1080, and the Odyssey app.
Oh, hey, welcome back in. Live out of Grand Central Bowl. What's happening, everybody? Here, Jeff Russ yelling. Hey, thanks for the text, Russ. My bad. We were talking USC Northwestern. We're live out of Grand Central Bowl Arcade and Sports Bar. I'm just here drinking my water. We didn't go anywhere. We're still here, baby. We're still rocking and rolling. Let's get to what's going on in the Big Ten. We're going to hear from Dan Lanning coming up in a moment. But a quick look at last night. USC got a win over Northwestern 38-17. Was your final there. A game that could have had a very different feel in the first half. USC faked a punt and picked up a conversion, went on to score a touchdown. And then late in the first half, for those who were watching, you saw this, but USC threw a pick, Mayava did, to a defensive lineman at Northwestern, and he was running into the end zone to go up 21-14 for Northwestern. And instead, he fumbled. Mayava punched it out going into the end zone, and it ended up being a touchback. You know, the fumble into the end zone when you're about to score.
Yep.
So USC, not only do they not give up the 7, they get the touchback and the ball back, and 3 plays later, they scored a 75-yard touchdown drive. Went up 21-14, and the rest of the game was kind of history there. But USC got a win. They are now 5-1 in conference play, 7-2 overall. They got a win last week over Nebraska, and they are coming to Autzen here in a couple of weeks. And so that game, at least as of now, will still be between 2 ranked teams. USC, just a quick note, they play Iowa at home next week. So Iowa, after they get through Oregon, they got to go to USC next week and play down in L.A. One game going on right now is Indiana and Penn State. Indiana is without, I believe, 2 of their top wide receivers in this game. Surratt, who had a massive game against Oregon and against Iowa. He torched this Iowa secondary when they played him in Iowa City. That's a scoreless game. Just underway there in the first quarter. Rest of the slate, it's not a very good Big Ten slate today. Washington, Wisconsin, anything there for you? Wisconsin can be fun.
Washington's pretty good right now.
They're pretty good right now.
Yeah, they're playing pretty good right now.
The only thought there for me is they just have been kind of a different team on the road this year than they are at home. And the weather is similar to the Oregon-Iowa game. The weather could be a little wonky today. And so that's just one. I don't think they're going to lose. But could it be, they were down to Maryland, so they can play some tight, uncomfortable games a little bit. So that's one to keep an eye on. And then, of course, in the kind of theme of Oregon season so far this year, they play Minnesota on a short week on a Friday night. Guess who Minnesota plays this week?
Who?
Nobody. They got a bye. So Oregon's got to go to Iowa City and play Iowa and play this physical, tough Big Ten game. And Minnesota just gets to sit home and enjoy it, put their feet up on the couch, and then Oregon gets to play on a short week on Friday night against Minnesota next week. And so we'll see how that plays out next week, but no game for Minnesota. The rest is late. Nebraska, UCLA. Nebraska's without Dylan Raiola the rest of the year. He's done. Broke his fibula, I believe. Maryland Rutgers play at 2:30, and Ohio State is on the road at Purdue, and that is a 30-point spread. So not a lot going on in the Big Ten today. The game in the conference is unquestionably Oregon and Iowa. And let's hear from the head coach of the Oregon Ducks, Dan Lanning. What did he have to say about this matchup and this game? He joins Isaac and Suk every Thursday at 4 o'clock. Our Coach's Corner is next on the pregame show, 105.1 FM The Fan.
Target's early
your local law team.
Touchdown, Oregon!
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day on the Fan Sports Network, 105.1, 1080, and the Odyssey app.
How have you prepared for the pink locker rooms?
I showed a picture to our team. I was like, hey, guys, the locker room's pink. Is that a big deal? I mean, do you guys want me to paint it? Do you want me to cover it up? Are you guys going to be able to handle that? You guys all men? Okay, cool. Yeah. And then we just kind of kept moving.
Yeah.
So I've actually been here before. I think when I was a GA at Pitt, I'm pretty sure we put like a bunch of like paper all over the walls. And I mean, it is what it is. It's pink,
Yeah.
So
yeah, it does seem like
good idea. Good idea by them. Maybe it does something. It means we're talking about it on the radio instead of worried about, stopping their quarterback or figuring out how to block their D line. So,
true. I'll ask a football question then. How do you run a cover 8 with 8 guys in coverage all the time, but still be like the number one rushing defense?
What do you mean specifically?
Well, they do this thing where they're basically in nickel the entire time. No big plays. Doesn't feel like they're super aggressive when I look at them. But of course, I'm not breaking out every film. But they're so fundamentally sound. No one really runs the ball on them real well.
No, I mean it starts up front with them. They strike blocks extremely well, and I'd tell you that the guys in coverage for them are aggressive run fitters. So those guys show up in the run fit. They understand where they fit, and they understand how to slow it down. They keep the linebackers clean. Their D linemen eat up too. So they get free hats to the ball and do a really good job of it.
How much is it like teaching like your guys to be patient too? Because it also feels like one of their strategies is if you do score against them, it's going to take you 9 minutes and they're going to make you go 15 plays. When you watch, do you find some teams that it's hard to be patient like that maybe some people get impatient against that style of D?
Well, it's certainly a team that can be tough. We want to take shots and opportunities. You look at film like, okay, well, we're just going to throw this one-on-one outside to this, to this corner. And when it doesn't get complete, guess what? It's second and 10. So they're good at making you feel like, okay, here's this. And the reality is it just doesn't happen very often. They do a good job in their sound and coverage. So you can't press. You got to make sure you stay on schedule and keep the ball moving forward and then kind of take what's given to you. And then if you get an opportunity to hit explosive, you take advantage of it.
All right, Dan Lanning each Thursday at 4 here on The Fan, brought to you by Philbrook Law. In football, you need a great coach. In life, after an accident, you need a great lawyer. That's why you need Philbrook Law, accident and injury attorneys, philbrook-law.com, your local law team.
It is 45 and cloudy here in Portland. Look for a high of 60 degrees, partly sunny skies. Should stay mostly dry at least today with about a 10 to 13 mile an hour wind. In Iowa City, it's 45 and raining for the 12:30 Pacific, 2:30 Central Time kick. Look for 43 degrees, rain throughout the game, wind around 7 to 10 miles an hour. Could dip into the high 30s by the end of the game. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes.
There are only about 43
program, who is on campus for a visit.
Oregon has really put their hooks in the Northwest. Suddenly, this class looks like it could be very, very special.
Where are their Ducks making traction on the recruiting trail?
Coffee's for closers only.
It's the Recruiting Report with Andrew Nimick. Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day on the Fan Sports Network, 105.1, 1080, and the Odyssey app.
All right, welcome back in. Talking some recruiting with our recruiting insider, Andrew Nimick. Before we do that, I just want to pass along, Pete Thamel has just reported that Oregon leading wide receiver Decorian Moore was injured in practice this week. His availability at Iowa is uncertain. And so we'll keep an eye on if he's available to go or not. But he is confirming that he was dinged up at practice going into this week. Andrew Nimick, you can hear him every Thursday right here on the Fan, 7 to 8 p.m. Check out the West Coast Bias podcast that he does with Suk, and give him a follow on Twitter at Andrew Nimick. Nimick, good morning to you, man. Injury rumors swirling around Oregon today going into this matchup against Iowa. It is a testament to, or I think something they're going to lean on, is the depth that they've built. And you know firsthand of just how much they've been able to stockpile talent and guys that can be impactful players. This is where the recruiting, I would imagine, in your mind, really pays off. Of you got a lot of guys behind other guys that can step up and maybe make some plays here today.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest difference between what Dan Lanning's built and when you look back at even what Chip has done. And Chip obviously had a tremendous amount of success at Oregon. I'm not saying that Dan Lanning has had more success to this point, but just in terms of vision of the program and the way they've recruited and the transfer portal has helped, having backups and third-string guys that are also 4- and 5-star prospects. You look at that blue chip ratio on this roster, it's higher than it's ever been. It seems like it climbs every year. And we know there's a threshold. You get into that 65 to 70% of your kids on your roster being 4- and 5-star talents, you've got a shot to win a national title. No team that hasn't hit that number has ever won a national title. So you got to be there. This Oregon team is sitting there. Wide receiver position, not the deepest right now. I mean, there's Evan Stewart got hurt, the transfer, and maybe he comes back, maybe he doesn't. It won't be today. The reason you were so excited about true freshman Decorian Moore was there was a need for an impact player in that receiving core. Gary Bryant Jr. is a solid player. They've got solid pieces, but the straw that stirs the drink in terms of a vertical threat is maybe missing today, which is something to monitor.
Yeah, you mentioned the blue chip ratio. That's another standout. I think I saw a graphic the other day of their current recruiting class for this upcoming cycle, and again leading the nation. And for historical perspective, can you explain to people how shocking that is? I think it was 89% of their recruits blue chip ratio, and that was again #1 in the country. And that just, it's kind of wild to me. Like it's almost become normal now when we talk about it. But when you think back 10 years ago, that would have been almost unthinkable for Oregon football.
Well, I've said for a while the biggest difference between Dan Lanning and even what Mario and Willie Taggart did as far as guys who elevated recruiting at Oregon, his backup plan is also a 4- and 5-star guy. He just seems to seamlessly pivot. You look at last year, their blue chip ratio last year was 95%. Again, this year it's at 89%. We're talking about an overwhelming number of kids. And when you're a 4-star kid, you've got a shot to be a high school All-American. I'm not speaking to saying that makes you a college All-American. Obviously, that's not true. But it gives you a shot to be a high school All-American if you're that level of player. To have your entire roster made up of those kind of guys is incredible. I go back to Jordan Davison. You look at a guy like Jordan Davison, who's obviously had an impact this year, was a freshman contributor, a rotational running back on a modern-day team that was competing for a national championship. He wasn't even a top 10 commit in the rankings. I mean, that just goes to show you how incredibly deep they are. Deere Hill, near the bottom of that list. Now, I happen to like Deere Hill a lot more than some other folks, but Deere Hill was a blue chip guy. He was a 4-star guy. But when 95% of are blue chips, you can have a guy averaging 17 yards a carry his senior season, and he's your 18th best recruit out of 20. It's absolutely remarkable. And it means guys can pop from anywhere. Blue chip guys are blue chip for a reason. They've got a higher hit rate. It's just a fact. We know that to be true. When you bring in 18, 20 every year, if 30, 40% of them pop and become stars, again, you've got a lot of different places where you can have talent pop up and contribute right away, which apparently they may need.
Yeah, might need it here today. Let's take a quick look at just kind of what's on the horizon. I know a Friday night game next week against Minnesota, and then you got your last home game of the year against USC, and they got a win last night. And so the anticipation probably building for that one. What are we just looking at here the next couple of weeks in terms of recruiting for Oregon and what that looks like?
Yeah, Anthony Tank Jones is visiting for that USC game. Anytime you have a Friday game, it's just difficult to get recruits, especially come playoff time, to come to a game like that, whether you're home or away. You know, you're not getting guys at your Friday night game. So that's obviously one not to worry about. But the USC game, I imagine Oregon will stack that pretty hard. And the guy to watch is Anthony Tank Jones. He's looking around. He's been connected to some of those big NIL programs. NIL is clearly a factor for him. They may need an edge rusher. Now, could Mateo Uyunglele come back? You know, it certainly hasn't been the best month for him. I don't think he's been absolutely stellar where you say, oh, unquestionably now first-round pick. There's some question, especially against the run. So maybe he comes back. Maybe Dante Moore comes back. Maybe next year's the year. If not, you're going to need an impact edge rusher. Anthony Tank Jones can be that guy. And if not, and he comes in next year behind the Mateo Uyunglele and can add some depth and some explosion in third and long situations, that's a pass rush specialist that could be really, really helpful right from the jump. So he's kind of the main guy to watch. Again, most of this class is put together and has been for quite some time. This is about keeping most of the guys together. They are looking at adding another wide receiver, but no more 5-stars. There hasn't been a 5-star uncommitted since about mid-July in the whole country. So if people are looking for, like, what's going to shake out this fall? Well, every 5-star committed and was off the board by July. So we've had months of guys being off the board. So you're just watching for flips now.
Yeah, we'll see what they can flip. Keep an eye on Anthony Tank Jones, and that depth at wide receiver might be tested today. Andrew Nimick, you can hear him every Thursday right here on The Fan, 7 to 8 p.m. Check out the West Coast Bias podcast he does with Souk, talking all things college, NFL, West Coast teams. And give him a follow on Twitter at Andrew Nimick. Enjoy the game today, buddy, and we'll chat again next week.
Thanks. Bye.
There you go, Andrew Nimick with your recruiting report. Should be noted, too, by the way, and this is a bigger picture thing for next year, Todd McShay reported this week that what he's hearing from NFL scouts, not that I don't know if this is a surprise to anybody, but that everybody around NFL circles is telling him that Dante Moore will be back again next year.
Yes, you will. He needs more work.
He absolutely does. I mean, it's the right call for him.
Yeah.
Maybe it changes, right? You get the evaluation that says you're a lock to be a top 3 pick, and you'd be an idiot to run away from that guaranteed money. But I don't know if that guarantee exists for him right now, and I'm with you.
No.
I think you've seen guys in the NFL that have been able to be impactful players right away, and they took a lot of snaps and played a lot of games in college. And he just did. I mean, it was, bench halfway through his freshman year at UCLA, sat for a year at Oregon, and so he doesn't have quite the number of reps that maybe you need to go into the NFL.
And I said that earlier. I said there's games I sit there and question Dante Moore. Like, okay, what is he doing?
Yeah.
What's going on here? So there's still a question.
Yep.
So he needs more reps. He's no doubt, the prototype quarterback, but he needs more work.
Yep, and so that was the report earlier this week. Again, if you're just joining us, Pete Thamel has confirmed that Decorium Moore was injured in practice this week. His availability today is uncertain. That's the way it's being phrased right now. And so I think we're all just kind of mentally going in with the idea that he won't be able to play for Oregon today. We will talk a little bit about what that means. The injury report, ironically, right around the corner, so we can get into it there as well. But let's start the next hour of our show with that idea of just what does the wide receiver room look like without Decorium Moore today? What guys need to step up in that room? That is coming up next. We are live out at Grand Central Bowl Arcade and Sports Bar, hanging out. They are about 28 minutes away from opening up. The kitchen getting fired up. Come have a cocktail, some breakfast. The Texas Tech BYU game and all the other games are on the screens. We'll give you some score updates in a moment. What does Oregon need to do if Decorium Moore can't go today? We'll go there next. 105.1 FM, The Fan.
It is 46 and cloudy here in Portland. Look for a high of 60 degrees, partly sunny skies. Should stay dry today with about a 10 to 13 mile an hour wind in Iowa City. It's 45 with some showers for the 2:30 Central, 12:30 Pacific kick. Looks like about 43 degrees, rain throughout the game. The wind around 7 to 10 miles an hour, could dip into the high 30s by the end of the game. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes.
Time for the second half. Live from Grand Central Bowl and Arcade, Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day. Coors Light, choose chill, celebrate responsibly.
Today, we talk with our pads.
And Thomas, Brock waiting for that snap, got it, going to hand it off. Davison going right, cut it up, inside 10. Good move inside the 5, still on his feet, 2-1, did he get there? Yes! Touchdown, Jordan Davison!
We're getting you ready for today's game between the Oregon Ducks and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Oregon Ducks football on the Fan is brought to you by Coors Light, Decana Dealerships, Philbrook Law, Zoom Care, Bellagio's Pizza, Langdon Farms Golf Club, Wilsonville Toyota, Mountaintop Metal Roofing, Victor Rico's Mexican Food, Legends Casino Hotel, Mods PDX, and Laurelhurst Market Steakhouse and Butcher Shop.
Touchdown, Oregon!
Now here's your hosts, Andy Johnson and Oregon Hall of Famer Anthony Newman on the Fan Sports Network, 105.1, 1080, and the Odyssey app.
All right, welcome back in. 1 hour for us this morning. We're almost done, man. Turn and burn, Oregon and Iowa coming up.
What?
I know. It's
Wow.
going. It's just like the football season. You look up and you say, wait a minute, the show's almost over. We're live out of Grand Central Bowl Arcade Sports Bar. They open up in less than a half hour. 10 o'clock, they're going to open up. And again, remember, it is the big Oregon Alumni Watch Party today. So if you're looking for a spot to watch the game, come stop by, say what's up, and they'll be opening up here in a little bit, opening at 10 a.m. They got Coors Light Tall Boy specials going on, Duck Ritas, which are always the big hit every time we're here, the margarita with a duck theme, the Hot Valley Dan Green IPA, and again, the official Oregon Alumni Watch Party. So stop by, say what's up, watching football today. And for those of you like me who no longer have access to ESPN, they got it on their TVs here, baby. So if you're a YouTube that should be their biggest marketing tool right now. You got YouTube TV, come down here and watch football games because we got BYU Texas Tech on in front of us. That is a 3-0 game, by the way, nearing the end of the first quarter. Texas Tech with the lead. BYU dropped a punt, and Texas Tech recovered it and kicked a field goal on that drive. And so that's where we're at right now. We'll take a look at some other scores around the country in a moment. But the big news of last night that kind of set the social media world on fire for Duck fans was are their injury rumors and who's in and who's out. And I opened the show saying, let's just, we need to wait until we get some sort of confirmation. And we got that confirmation. Pete Thamel reporting about 15 minutes ago that Decorian Moore, his status is uncertain for today, and he was dinged up in practice. And so gray area there, but I think all of us are going to just run with the idea he's probably not going to be able to go here today. And, you look at the wide receiver room, Anthony. I don't even know how impactful those guys are going to be today because the weather might be bad and you might not be throwing the ball a ton.
Thank you.
So,
yes, correct.
I don't know how much it's going to hurt them, and we don't know the severity of it. And the hell, we don't even know if he's going to play today or not. So let's just take a deep breath there. But just go down the road of he's not available to go. Where does your mind go in that room? Gary Bryant is a known force. He's a guy who's played a lot of football. Who are the guys you're kind of looking at to step up if Decorian Moore can't go? He's their leading receiver this year.
I like Malik Benson.
Yeah.
I like his speed.
Haven't heard much from him the last couple of games,
No, he's
man.
been quiet.
Yeah.
That's why now he needs to step up.
Yeah.
If Moore's not playing, step up and be that guy. But Gary Bryant Jr. He's been around a while. He's the vet. He has to be able to do something there with being a senior, being a guy going, okay, hey, I got to lead this thing. He might not be the fastest guy on the field, might not be the quickest, but he has that experience, and that's going to help too. We forget about Sadiq. When we talk about receivers, you forget about there's a guy I know he's at tight end.
He's a freak.
But yes, indeed. He's a freak. And then last game, Oregon, I think they targeted him, 6 times in the first quarter? He was getting busy. So you have to use him. And today's game is going to be wet. It's going to be cold. The ball's not going deep. Throw the short little out routes to Sadiq and let him work. Let him break those tackles. Make these DBs tackle big guys in bad weather.
Yeah.
That's hard to do. You're sliding off. You can't get your footing to make a good tackle. But the ball's not going deep a whole lot. And the wind, this ain't supposed to be really windy. It's hard to throw those deep balls. So the speed of the game is going to change a little bit. It's going to be more in a phone booth compared to out, on a track. And that's why, it hurts if he's not playing. I get that. He will open up the defense by getting deep.
Yeah.
But you're not getting deep this game. It's hard.
Might not happen, man. I think it's great to point out Malik Benson, who has also been a great deep threat for them all year. And he kind of hasn't been a part of the offense. Some of that was, game plan. Some of that was the weather against Wisconsin, right? You just haven't had to use him a ton. You haven't thrown the ball down the field a ton. And so Malik Benson is the first guy that stand out in my mind, too, of just, that's your deep play threat and a guy that can maybe push the defense vertically. The other guy that I'll shout out, and I think, again, this gets back to the depth that we talked about earlier that we just asked Nimick about and what they've been able to build. Like, Jeremiah McClellan was an Ohio State recruit until National Signing Day.
Yeah.
And they flipped him at the last second, and it was a big deal when they got him. He's a high-level 4-star recruit.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of quiet, but every time he's in there, I feel like he's making a big play. He's making a good block. He's doing the right things. He's not the biggest guy. He's not the fastest guy. But he's trustworthy with his hands. He's running good routes. And so Jeremiah McClellan will be the other guy that I'd look at and say, man, that's just – a guy like that's ready to step up. And you could argue that he should be deserving of a bigger role based on the way that he's playing this year. And, again, it goes back to the next man up mentality. Now, all of a sudden, that might be your bigger role. Here's your opportunity. Go shine, young man.
Well, I like him because he's doing everything as a receiver. He is blocking. Yep. He is catching short routes, deep routes. He's doing it all. And yet he's a baby.
He's a kid, man. They're all kids. It's wild. He's a sophomore.
It's wild.
Cooper Perry's played as a freshman this year.
Yes.
And the other thing I'll add, too, and then we're kind of doing the injury report segment right now. We'll get to it next anyways. But the other thing I'll add to that is you mentioned Gary Bryant and his versatility and his experience that he's played through. That's one of those things that could help a young quarterback out a ton of. Like, Iowa's going to run a lot of coverages. They run a lot of zone defense from their linebackers.
Yeah.
And sometimes as a wide receiver, that's just knowing – hey, there's a hole right here. I'm going to stop. And it sounds so simple when you say it, but all of a sudden I'm running over the middle. Instead of running into that linebacker or running away, hey, wait a minute, there's nobody within 7 yards of me.
Yes.
Stop. Hey, throw me the ball. I'm right here. There's your 6-yard completion on first down. Now it's 2nd and 3.
Yeah.
And it just that kind of the level of experience that he's played and the defenses that he's seen can maybe help Dante Moore out a ton here.
And guys with experience understand that.
Yeah.
And that's what a young guy
don't
doesn't
run
understand.
into a coverage. Don't run into a defender.
Exactly. And trust your quarterback is seeing the same thing.
Yes. Yeah, be on the same page.
Yeah.
So if we get any more injury news, we will pass it along. We will give you some score updates coming up in a little bit. But ironically, the Zoom Care injury report, that is coming up next. What else do we know about Oregon, about who's in and who's out? Also, the long-term play, the one thing I'll say, if you are without Decoria Moore for a while, there might be a helping hand on its way, and that's been kind of reported and leaked here the last couple of weeks. And so we'll dive in. Zoom Care injury report coming up next. This is hour number 2 of Ducks Game Day on the Fan Sports Network, brought to you as always by Frost Brew Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. Injury report next. 105.1 FM The Fan.
It is currently 48 with some sun peeking out here in Portland. Look for a high of 60 with partly sunny skies. Should stay mostly dry today with about a 10 to 13 mile an hour wind. In Iowa City, it's 45 with some rain in the area. For the 2:30 Central, 12:30 Pacific kick, looks like about 43 degrees. Rain throughout the game. Wind around 7 to 10 miles an hour. The temperature could dip down into the high 30s by the end of the game. I'm Jeff Rust with Texas Game Day weather every 10 minutes.
Who's in, who's out? This is the Injury Report, brought to you by Zoom Care, with clinics near you. Zoom Care offers same-day appointments when you need them, even on evenings and weekends. Insurance accepted, including Medicare. ZoomCare.com.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about injuries.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day on the Fan Sports Network, 105.1, 1080, and the Odyssey app.
Well, we just kind of did the Injury Report segment before the Injury Report segment. So we will get to that in a moment. But I figured, hey, if you're driving around this morning, you're curious, what's going on in college football? What's going on? Indiana, Penn State scoreless, 3 minutes to go in the first quarter. It's an interesting one to keep an eye on. Indiana, speaking of injuries, they're without their top two wide receivers in this game. Surratt, who was the guy who was he was a huge problem for Oregon. He torched the Iowa secondary when they played him back in whatever that was, late September, early October. He is out. He tried to go through warm-ups this morning and couldn't go.
Oh, they just scored. Indiana.
And so Indiana just scored. Okay,
Yep.
So they're on the board. They were driving there nearing the end of the first quarter. So Indiana now on the board, 7-0. Georgia is in trouble. They're on the road at Mississippi State. That is a 7-3 game. In the first quarter. I think Georgia just got stuffed, if I'm not mistaken, as I try and pull this up. I think they just got stuffed on a goal line stand. Yeah, they got stuffed around the 4-yard line. Pass was broken up around the 4-yard line. And so it looks like Mississippi State's got the ball back, and so they got a lead on Georgia 7-3. We'll keep an eye on that. That'd be a massive upset. Georgia damn near lost to Florida last week down in Jacksonville, and so they avoided an upset there. Texas Tech is all over BYU early, 10-0, just about the end of the first quarter. The game swung early. BYU dropped a punt, and Texas Tech recovered and kicked the field goal, and then they just scored a touchdown on their last drive. So that is a 10-0 game at the end of the first quarter in Lubbock. There are some scores for you around the country. You look at the rest of the season for Oregon. We'll see how today goes. And if you are without DeCorian Moore and you just look to survive and advance, right? That's where you're at in November. It doesn't matter. Style points don't matter. You don't need to worry about a beauty pageant. Just go win the damn game. Who cares what the final score is? But at least the benefit you got going for you is there's continued reporting that Evan Stewart might be back at some point here in the month of November. And so the guy that was supposed to be your number one wide receiver at the start of the year, but he got hurt in the offseason, might end up being your number one receiver down the stretch. And so guy in, guy out, next man up. You never know what new opportunity gets created, and maybe it's Jeremiah McClellan that goes off today, and you say, hey, we got a number one wide receiver, and you just never know how it works out. But it's the mentality of a team to be able to overcome that and say, now it's my opportunity. Now I'm going to go take advantage of it and see what I can do.
And again, it's a part of football. Injuries happen, and it's always about the next man up. And if you have a lot of guys on your team that can play who are second-string and third-string guys, those guys are the guys now.
Let's go, baby.
Yeah,
see what you got.
Let's go, yes.
Injury report brought to you by Zoom Care. More than 20 neighborhood clinics in Oregon and Southwest Washington. Zoom Care offers convenient access to same-day urgent and emergency care, plus an expanded primary care team currently accepting new patients. Schedule or learn more at ZoomCare.com. Buddy, I need some help.
Oh,
I need some help.
Yeah, what do you got?
It's a Lock of the Week segment coming up next.
I jumped off the train. Did you see that?
I'm going to crowdsource. We got 7 people in here. What's everybody like? What bets do you like this week? Huh? Help me out a little bit. I need some support, man. We fired the offense coordinator.
I was saying, save yourselves.
Now we got to fire the defense coordinator.
Save yourselves. Jump off the train.
We're lost in the wilderness, and there's no answers in sight.
You have no breaks.
Where can we go? I don't know. Legends Casino Hotel Lock of the Week. That's next on the Fan Sports Network.
The hardest part about getting a new roof
It is currently 48 in Portland with some sun peeking out. Look for a high of 60 with partly sunny skies. Should stay mostly dry today with about a 10 to 13 mile an hour wind. In Iowa City, currently 45 with some showers. For the 2:30 Central, 12:30 Pacific kick, looks like about 43 degrees, rain throughout the game. Wind around 7 to 10 miles an hour. The temp could dip down into the high 30s by the end of the game. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes.
It's time for winners. The lock of the week.
And here's the handoff. Winnington 10-5. Touchdown. No Winnington.
Where our hosts share their picks of the week. Brought to you by Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish, Washington. Within winning distance. Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day on the Fan Sports Network. 105.1, 1080, and the Odyssey app.
Well, all hope is lost. All confidence is gone. There's no faith anymore. But you know what? When you fire your coach, maybe you get a boost. So maybe I need to get fired from this segment, and then I'll get a boost in the next pick.
How do you fire yourself?
That's a great question. I don't know. I'm making it up as I go. But here's what I will say. Okay, here's where we're going to go for the lock of the week this week. You ready for this one?
No.
I know you're not. Look, it's going to lose. I know it's going to lose. But, hey, let's hold out hope for a second, okay? Speaking of fired coaches. Now, I don't know. Did you ever have a guy got fired in the middle of the season when you played?
Yep.
Yeah.
Jim Moore Sr.
Did you get a boost in the next game? Did the team kind of rally together?
Yeah, we did.
You did, didn't you? The fire coach thing's real?
Yeah, we did.
I'm going fire coach effect here today, okay? Auburn, I think, talent profile is not a bad team. Their offense stinks. It's terrible. They can't really throw the ball. They're taking on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt just got whooped up pretty good at Texas.
Don't do it.
Auburn fired their head coach, and they're going to get the boot. They're all coming together. They're rallying in the locker room.
Where are you getting your information from?
I got no
your
information.
knowledge.
I got nothing. I'm just shooting from the hip, baby. Give me Auburn plus 5.5 in Vanderbilt tonight. Let's go, baby. Let's go Tigers. Let's go Tigers. 8-game losing streak loading. I know. Look, I know. We'll all have that memory. 3-0 was great, man. You're 3-0. You know, you're feeling good. Everything's tasting better.
And your game plan is because the coach got fired?
That's all I got. That's the only thing I got. That's all I got, man. I got no other thing to lean on. I will admit, I did contemplate taking Iowa for the lock of the week because I'm on such a bad losing streak that I thought maybe there's a reverse psychology there that it guarantees an Oregon win, but I didn't want to touch that mojo. You know, that's some voodoo that I don't want to be a part of. So Auburn plus 5.5. Go to your local casino, or drive down to Legends Casino in Toppenish, and or drive up, I should say. And go place a bet on Vanderbilt to cover, because I'm on a 7-game losing streak with the lock of the week. But the lock of the week is brought to you by Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish. Legends Casino Hotel within winning distance online, legendscasino.com. We'll give you a couple of score updates here. BYU trying to put a drive together. That's around the corner. A couple other angles from this Oregon matchup against Iowa that we haven't talked about yet. That is all still to come. And then, of course, don't forget Joey Harrington and Mike Jorgensen, all still around the corner. We're live out of Grand Central Bowl Arcade and Sports Bar, and they're about to open up about 8 minutes from now. So hope to see some friendly faces out here. Games are on. We're done at 10:30, and we are diving back into the matchup next. 105.1 FM, The Fan.
Hey, it's Dusty. My family and I love Gameday.com.
It is 48 with some sun peeking out here in Portland. Look for a high of 60. Partly sunny skies. Should stay dry today with about a 13-mile-an-hour wind. In Iowa City, it is 45 with some showers. As for the 2:30 Central, 12:30 Pacific time kick, looks like about 43 degrees. Rain throughout the game with wind around 7 to 10 miles an hour. The temp could dip down into the high 30s by the end of the game. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes.
Bellagio
Let's preview the game with a Ducks legend.
Wait for it. Daring.
Captain Comeback, Joey Harrington. From his weekly visit every Friday on Primetime.
I would call myself somebody who's been around for a long, long, long time and wants to tell some nice stories.
Brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
Touchdown, Oregon.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day on the Fan Sports Network, 105.1, 1080, and the Odyssey app.
Where is the patented Joey Harrington worry meter?
Where do I want to admit that it is, or where is it really?
Now let's where is it really? Let's give us an honest assessment.
7.5.
That's high.
That's one of the higher ones we've had this year.
Yeah, absolutely. That might be the highest one.
I don't even think you were that high on Indiana.
No, I don't think so.
I wasn't that high on Penn State.
No.
I wasn't high on. No,
I wasn't either on
not.
Penn State. Indiana had my attention. Penn State did not.
Nope. Here's why. So you lose to Indiana. Fine. Happens. They beat you, right? We talked about that. Like, sometimes you get punched in the face, right? The old Mike Tyson thing. Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. Well, you got punched in the face, and what happened is you came out against Wisconsin, and like you were lifeless for the better part of 3 quarters. That makes me nervous. And I know it was raining, and I know it was the response to the loss at Iowa makes me nervous. Now, so you know, on a good team, when you lose a game, you either go one of two ways, right? Everything collapses, or you like, all right, the week after things are a little weird, and then you recalibrate and go. I was expecting a recalibration against Wisconsin, and it didn't happen. And that makes me hesitate enough to make me worry. And now, do I think that Iowa is a better football team than Oregon? No, I don't. I don't at all. But with the way the last couple weeks have gone, going on the road against hey, look, they're a good team. Are they elite? No. But like this is, remember when we went to Wisconsin last year?
Yeah.
And it was what, 7-6 going into the fourth quarter?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what this makes me feel like. We could end up in one of those Big Ten 7-6 start of the fourth quarter, and then you never know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Right. What I want to see, I wanted to see like an explosion against Wisconsin. I wanted to see a screw you, like that was not who we really are, what you saw against Indiana. And we haven't seen that. And so until you see that, you're going to have hesitation about like, ooh, their best win, Penn State? Well, was Penn State really that good? All right, well, you played Indiana. Oh, well, Indiana beat you. Oh, well, you had a chance to respond against Wisconsin, a really bad team, and, 21-7? You know, like there are enough things here to make you nervous. And that's why I'm at a 7.5. Do I believe they're a better team? Hell no, I don't. Do I think that Oregon can still make a splash and, I mean, hell, even right the ship and make a run at a national championship? Absolutely I do. But at this point, right now, there are enough pieces on the other side to make me say I'm a little bit nervous.
We must run. Hope you have a great weekend.
Joey Harrington's Friday visits with Isaac and Suk on Primetime are brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
There are only about
From Grand Central Bowl and Arcade, Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day. Coors Light, choose chill. Celebrate responsibly on the Fan Sports Network, 105.1, 1080, and the Odyssey app.
All right, welcome back in, live out at Grand Central Arcade Bowl and Sports Bar, having fun as the doors are officially open. So stop by, say what's up. The drinks are flowing, and we got games on. Everybody's ready to bowl. And we're hanging out for another 30 minutes, and you're going to hear from Mike Jorgensen coming up here in a moment. We'll get his thoughts, and he'll kind of set the scene for you live from Iowa City. We've talked about this game in a lot of different angles, Anthony, and, the defense and what they have to do to try and bottle Iowa up. But one of the things that I think I wanted to touch on again, because it might end up having a big impact, and that is how you go about trying to slow down a mobile quarterback and a guy that can use his legs to extend plays. Because you go back to the end of the Oregon-Indiana game when Oregon desperately needed to stop, and a lot of those drives were extended because Mendoza was kind of starting to pull it on that zone read, and everybody's kind of crashing down the line of scrimmage, and all of a sudden here's 7, 8, 10 yards off of the edge, and it becomes really difficult. And that's, Iowa, we know their offense is limited. We know they don't throw the football very well. They'll do what they can here or there. They're going to try and run the football. But, again, that quarterback mobility is just a different dynamic for them this year, and trying to always make sure somebody's accounting for what Gronowski's trying to do to run the football.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you have to look at the offense, you understand, okay, this quarterback can run and or he can scramble. And that's two different types. When you scramble and buy time for your receivers to get open, that's hard.
Yeah.
When you scramble to run, you become a running back. So, you have to have a controlled rush from your defensive lineman. They can't be flying up the field. You also have to look at the quarterback. Does he, escape from the right or the left, or is he coming in the pocket and then taking off? And you have to understand that. Do we have a spy as a linebacker, okay, or we're going to take a defensive lineman and kind of be that spy and maybe rush just 3 guys?
Yeah.
Is there certain ways you can get after it? Yeah, I think it's important to understand that if you have a quarterback and he can scramble, make him throw from the pocket.
Yeah.
You want him to
hem
throw
him in there and keep him kind of camped in.
And then you talk about weather conditions. It's going to be hard to throw, period. So now you're keeping him in the pocket and you're making him throw.
Yeah.
And Amari Washington can get some push from the middle. When you collapse that pocket from the middle, then now he's going to panic and he's trying to get, escape right or left, but he can't because your defensive linemen are just hanging, waiting for him to escape from the side. So there's different ways you can try to contain those quarterbacks. A lot of times when you spy with the linebacker, you're taking him out of coverage, so that's hard. I don't think you want to, it's. I'm not looking at film,
right?
It's hard to figure out what type of quarterback he is. But I know he likes to scramble. I know he can run, and he's 230.
He's a big kid. He's a big kid.
He's a big running back, basically. And he will run.
Yeah. Well, I think you mentioned too, like when it's very different, right? Like Dante Moore is a guy that will want to extend a play to try and throw the ball downfield.
That's right.
There's a different, plan to that of trying to cover and stay sticky down the field 6-7 seconds in. That's not an easy thing to do. That's not really what Gronowski's going to do.
He wants to run.
He's going to run. And the way you phrase it, too, of him being a running back, I think is perfect because when you go back to their game against Indiana, one of the things that kind of hampered this offense for a bit, and one of the reasons they maybe didn't win that game was because he got banged up running the football ton.
That's right.
And they got some hits on him. And so you mentioned if you're just going to be running the ball down the field and you're trying to use your legs and that's just what your MO is going to be, you're a running back and we're going to make you pay. And that's got to be a mentality of this Oregon defense today.
Exactly right. In this type of game, I would use, one of the middle linebackers or outside linebackers, whoever, to spy on this quarterback because he's not going to throw the ball.
Yeah.
He wants to run.
Yeah.
So now I got a linebacker tackling this big quarterback.
Right. And you get those big hits from those big bodies, no doubt about it. On Oregon's linebackers, I think when you look at this defense for Oregon this year, I don't mean it to sound like a negative on them. Maybe it's just because I feel a certain way about their D-line and their guys in their secondary that at times it feels like the linebackers maybe can be the weakness of the defense. And it's also a difficult thing of, I think Lanning has looked for a certain type of guy in the middle of that defense that can go sideline to sideline and have the athleticism. And these are those weird games where it's like, who were the linebackers when you played? Because we could use those guys that were like 230, 240 coming downhill with a neck roll and like they're going to. And you're developing and you're looking for a different style of play at that position now than you used to. But then all of a sudden you play a random team like this. Reminds me when Oregon would run into a Stanford team.
Yes.
And you got a bunch of offensive linemen and you got to be physical, but we got more speed and athleticism. It's just how they fit the run game today. And again, it goes back to the D-line eating up blocks and all that. But how those linebackers can fit in the run game and be physical might end up being the story of the ball game.
Well, also Tosh Lapoy may do something different. Add an extra defensive lineman in the game.
Very well could, yeah.
Yeah, because you understand that you don't have those big downhill linebackers. You have linebackers who can run sideline to sideline. They weigh maybe 220, 215.
Yeah.
They're not 230 coming downhill, plugging holes, hitting fullbacks, dealing with tight ends. But you still got guys who can tackle well. They can plug the hole. But maybe let's get some more defensive linemen on the field.
Yeah.
They're not going to throw the football. And if they do throw the football, the quarterback's going to scramble and run.
Right.
So we can try to contain him.
And you got corners who can be sticky in coverage.
Yeah, and we don't have to worry about the defensive backs because they can cover the receivers. So let's stop the run. And doing that, bring more beef.
Yeah.
And also let's protect the linebackers.
Yeah,
by
make their life easier.
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, man. There's a lot of different ways you can go, right? You got a quarterback that can scramble. You got a team that you know is going to run the football. I'm just really curious to see what their defensive game plan is going to be today. And this, it's an Oregon defense that has been stout all year. We've spent a lot of time this week, the college football world, talking about Iowa's defense and how talented they are. When you look at the numbers, Oregon's defense goes toe-to-toe with them.
Yes, they do.
Across the board.
Yes, they do.
And they've played an almost identical schedule, right? They each got a game against Indiana. And, you could say, well, Iowa's defense was maybe a little bit better in that game. That's fine. Oregon also had a pick six in that game, right? And so they were able to score one of the few times Oregon was able to score in that game. And so really excited to see how they handle that challenge. It's not an offense that should give you a lot of challenges. And Oregon's defense will have to play well today. Let's hear from Mike Jorgensen. We'll head out to Iowa City coming up next. The color analyst of the Ducks. What's he seeing? Is he ready for some snow football? Mike Jorgensen is next, but now it's time for Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes. Here's Jeff Rust.
It is 49 with what looks to be abundant sunshine right now here in Portland. Look for a high of 60 with partly sunny skies. It should stay dry today with about a 10 to 13 mile an hour wind. In Iowa City, it's 45 with some showers. As for the 2:30 Central, 12:30 Pacific time kick, looks like about 43 degrees, rain throughout the game. Wind around 7 to 10 miles an hour, and the temperature could dip down into the high 30s by the end of the game. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes.
It's time for the inside look at the Ducks and today's matchup. Ask Jorgie. Brought to you by Bellagio's Pizza, the very best.
We think that there's some alphas on our team, but nobody else right now does, and so that's the type of thing that you're going to have to prove.
With Ducks color analyst and former quarterback Mike Jorgensen. Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day on the Fan Sports Network, 105.1 1080, and the Odyssey app.
All right, welcome back in live out of Grand Central Bowl and Arcade and Sports Bar for about 20 more minutes for us. And we're going to send you out to Iowa City, and this man will take over for the rest of the afternoon right here on the home of the Oregon Ducks, 105.1 FM The Fan. Mike Jorgensen, the color analyst of the Ducks. Jorgie, good morning to you. Set the scene for me, man. This one's got a lot of buzz, a lot of anticipation. People out there saying maybe the biggest home game in a decade for the Hawkeyes. What are we looking at right now out in Iowa City?
Well, I tell you what, it's rainy, cold, a little bit gray. It's going to be that way. I think the rain's going to pick up and just get a little colder as the day goes on. But, you know, a lot of rabid Iowa fans around here just waiting to get at this one. It's one of those games that has the potential of just being a heavyweight bout in the middle of the field. The guys just slugfest back and forth playing for field position. It could end up, you know, a game where you don't have a total of 30 points played. And frankly, that's what Iowa likes to play. That's what Oregon's hoping to play. But it's going to be blustery, and that's going to, I think, limit some things for both teams today.
Now, you mentioned the weather and it being windy and rainy already. That's not a great sign. We were hoping for, a little bit of sunshine from Jorgie right out of the gate today. But then it sounds like maybe in the second half we might be getting some snow. Have you ever played in a snow game? Are you ready? Are you equipped for the snow? Are we wearing shorts? What's the wardrobe look like?
Yeah, I got the shorts on, but at least I can close the windows in our booth, so that's kind of nice. Hey, you know what? I played in a snow game in high school.
Okay.
Funny, we had Grand High School from Portland come over. They didn't know what they were doing. They're like, what is this stuff? So it was pretty fun in high school. That's the only one. And if it's going to happen, guys, it's going to happen second half, late in the game, if it's going to happen at all. So, but the temperature's going to continue to go down as the rain picks up. So it's going to be a cold, crisp. You know, this is the type of game, frankly, I could see Anthony playing in. You know, close to the line of scrimmage, physical, getting after people. Both sides are going to do it. It's going to be interesting to watch.
Jorgie, we all know that you played the quarterback position, but as a quarterback and dealing in these conditions, and if it does snow, how do you deal with that? Is the ball always wet, or do they have a chance to wipe off the ball? Or what are you dealing with?
Well, I mean, from a snow standpoint, you'd rather, frankly, as a quarterback and myself, I would rather have snow than rain because the ball just doesn't get as wet all the time. It might get a little bit slick, but you're able to dry it off a lot more easily. But I don't anticipate, Anthony, that's going to be the case here. And even if it is, then it's going to be a wet snow. So it's going to be almost like rain as it is. So I'd rather throw football on a snowy day than on a rainy day anytime. But today, I don't know if a long pass is going to be thrown, frankly. I think it's just going to be a game plan of scrimmage, and maybe, if you're going to throw passes, they're going to be short in nature and to be able to really go down the field. I don't know if the quarterback's going to get the time to do it, number one. And number two, you're throwing it in the wind and rain, it's going to be up there for anybody to go up and get. So, line of scrimmage is going to be key to this game. A few first downs and a field goal might be the difference in the game.
You mentioned not maybe throwing the ball down the field a ton. Weather and just kind of the surrounding nature of that might have a big hand in it. Also, the reporting this morning, DeCorian Moore got a little banged up in practice this week, and we're not quite sure exactly what his status is going to be. I'm just curious, when you look at that wide receiver room, Jorgie, how much does that change the game plan? What are the guys that you're kind of circling if DeCorian Moore is not able to go that will have to step up for a big game here today?
Well, I think, anytime you lose what's considered your home run hitter, from a pass standpoint, that deep threat in DeCorian Moore, if that's the case, it does change up things a little bit because the defense doesn't have to, when you break cover and come up the line of scrimmage, you don't have to find out where he is on the field, which makes everybody else better. So, we're going to see when game time gets here if he shows up on the field. But some guys like Benson and Sadiq and Gary Bryant and McClellan, who's been playing a lot in the last couple of weeks, they're going to have to step up to the table and be effective. And, again, that's why I talk about that short pass game. That's probably going to be a key on a day like today where you really can't stretch the field. Quarterbacks aren't going to get a whole lot of time throwing the ball in the first place. And with the conditions, that's probably going to be the game. But, again, I know I'm beating a dead horse here. Both defenses are so good. And that's going to be the key to this game. And frankly, when the ball gets wet, a turnover in this game where a team doesn't have to go very far to kick a field goal or score a touchdown might be the difference in the game.
Wait, we just got done talking, Jorgie. This will be the last one for you. We'll let you go because I know we're going to send you out to your way here in a moment as you guys will take over coverage, and the game is right around the corner. We've spent a lot of time this week. The general college football media has talking about how good Iowa's defense is, and we know it's good. I mean, they've been good forever. That's the calling card of Kirk Ferentz, and they're sound physically. They understand their assignment. They don't give up big plays. We get it. I feel like there's almost been a level of disrespect this week for Oregon's defense, who, when you look at the numbers, kind of goes toe-to-toe with everything that Iowa has done. How big of a performance are you expecting, and what are the challenges that Mark Gronowski can pose? Not the most prolific passer in the world, but we know he's a good athlete that can use his legs.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Oregon's defense, I think, sometimes gets forgotten when you have guys like, Dante Moore and DeCorian Moore, and the offense puts up yards. But you look at total yards both these teams give up on defense almost dead even, frankly. And so it's going to be one of those games where, you don't want a guy like Weegan, for example, the punt returner, stat back wide receiver to beat you in relation to the special teams. But Oregon's defense, I just think, is going to be one of the things that has to carry this game. They're just as good. They're going against a quarterback who's going to run the ball. He's got 11 rushing touchdowns, only 4 passing touchdowns. So he likes to keep it. He likes to run it. He's the leading rusher on Iowa's team. He's almost carried it more than anybody else has. So he's going to be a key. Again, just not making the major mistake. That's the thing about it. 4 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions. Iowa doesn't look to do a whole lot of creative things. They look for their defense to carry the day, score 16 to 20 points, and you're going to win 9 out of 11, and that's what they're looking to do today.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. And if Oregon can kind of spoil what a big day, kind of a Super Bowl feel for Iowa out in Iowa City today. Mike Jorgensen, color analyst of the Oregon Ducks. Stay warm out there, Jorgie. Have a great call. Look forward to hearing what you have to say throughout the game, and we'll see you down in Autzen on Friday night.
Okay, guys. Have a great day. Thanks.
Right,
there you go. Mike Jorgensen, color analyst of the Ducks, brought to you as always by Bellagio's Pizza. Score big with their game day special. Large cheese or one-topping pizza, small cheese sticks, and a 2-liter. All this for only $25. Go to Bellagio'sPizza.com to find one of their 13 locations near you. Hopefully everybody was able to pick. I know that the reception there, Iowa needs a few more cell towers. Maybe we're learning that. I don't know if you could hear most of what he was having to say there. I think it's spot on, though, man. This is a defense that I think is getting disrespected going into the game. And if I'm Oregon,
you're right.
I'm taking that personally. You think their defense is better? You think that they can't throw the ball? Why aren't we talking about this? You don't think we can stop them? They can't throw the football.
Yes, it's crazy when you have an offense of Oregon that's dynamic. They can have explosion plays, and then you're looking at an offense of Iowa that doesn't throw it. All they do is run.
Yeah.
When you talk about a defense going against them, I'll take my chances. Okay, good. You're just going to run the football?
Here we go.
I'm going to stack the box.
Yep.
I'm going to get a lot of safeties in there. I'm going to get a lot of linebackers in there. I'm going to add more defensive linemen. We're going to stop the run.
Yeah.
period.
Hey, man, big challenge for Oregon's defense today. A couple more thoughts on this one, and we'll go to that coming up next. What's at stake? We're almost done. Only 10 minutes left in our pregame show. We'll send you out to Iowa City. Kickoff coming up at 12:30 right here on the home of the Oregon Ducks, 105.1 FM The Fan. A reminder, we are live out at Grand Central Bowl and Arcade and Sports Bar, and they are open. The food is rolling out. They got some drinks getting poured, so people showing up, do some bowling and grab some cocktails. Kickoffs from around the country are going on. So some score updates, what's at stake. We're almost done live on 105.1 FM The Fan.
Hey, it's Dirt here for home.
It is 49 with what looks to be abundant sunshine out there here in Portland. Look for a high of 60 with partly sunny skies. Should stay dry today with about a 10 to 13 mile an hour wind. In Iowa City, it's 44 and raining for the 2:30 Central, 12:30 Pacific time kick. Looks like about 43 degrees. Rain throughout the game. Wind around 7 to 10 miles an hour. The temperature could dip into the high 30s by the end of the game. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day weather every 10 minutes.
The grill is sizzling. Some teams are cooked. It's time for What's at Stake.
You know what? I'm going to cook on your grill.
A look at the smoking hot games in college football. Brought to you by Laurelhurst Market Steakhouse and Butcher Shop. More than just your favorite neighborhood steakhouse.
I am going to have that third steak after all. Go ahead and put that order in now.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day on the Fan Sports Network, 105.1, 1080, and the Odyssey app.
All right, before we get to What's at Stake, a couple of quick notes here. One, make sure you're tuning in later today to the Dick Hanna Dealerships post-game scoreboard show as Joe Fish and Jordan Schultz will break everything down that happens in Iowa City today and recap a big time game for Oregon on the road at Iowa. Quick score updates for you from around the country. If you're driving around, Indiana's in a dogfight at Penn State. That game's 10-7. 2 minutes to go in the first half. Georgia's got a 10-point lead now, so they're starting to separate a little bit against Mississippi State. And Texas Tech and BYU is the other one I know everybody's got their eye on, and that is a 13-0 game right now. Texas Tech leads at home over BYU. It's been a rough first half for freshman quarterback Bear Bachmeier. And also a good reminder of what the SEC is able to do. You know who Ole Miss is playing today?
Who?
The Citadel.
Oh.
You know, you got to challenge yourself late in the season. You know, you can't no weeks off, right? It just means more down there. So before we kind of wrap things up and have some final thoughts on the game, what's at stake, man? A lot is on the line for Oregon today. I don't know if they're in the playoff as a two-loss team. If they lose today, I don't know what the rest of the schedule will look like and who stays healthy and all that stuff, right? But a lot has been made about their resume and the Penn State win maybe not being as good as we thought it was at the time. And I thought Lanning put it correctly this week. It's like, it doesn't matter. Just go win. Take care of business, and the rest of it will handle itself. But we've now reached that point in the year where you're close. You can almost grab it, right? You're a couple weeks away. We've seen seasons where they've been able to finish the job and seasons where they haven't been able to. I'm really excited to see how this team faces adversity today and overcomes a really tough environment with tough conditions.
Well, I think these are the times that you have to start playing in that zone.
Yeah.
It's the end of the season.
You want to start peaking in November.
Exactly right. So you had a bye. You're getting guys healthy, and now you start playing right. And when you're doing that at this time of year, you start to do that going into a playoff situation or to a bowl game. When you're struggling still this time of year, it's like, we might have a problem.
Yeah. You can't kick it into another gear.
You've been playing a lot of football, and you're still struggling? Come on.
There's only 4 games left on your schedule.
Exactly right. So that's what you want to look at. And then, the bye week was good because guys were injured. You get them healthy. Now let's let it go.
Yeah.
There's nothing left. Let's get after it.
It's time to start playing your best football, and we'll see if they can do it today. What's at Stake brought to you by Laurel Horse Market. More than just your friendly neighborhood steakhouse. Make your reservation today at laurelhorsemarket.com. And again, a reminder, later on this afternoon, 12:30 kicks, probably around 5 o'clock, somewhere in that range. The Dick Hanna Dealership postgame scoreboard show will go down, and Joe and Jordan will give you all the updates on scores from around the country and recap what happens in Iowa City today. Our final thoughts, our game predictions for Oregon and Iowa, that's where we're going to wrap up next live out at Grand Central Bowl Arcade and Sports Bar. And our final segment next for us, heading off into Iowa City, and game day coming up at 12:30. Back after this on 105.1 FM, The Fan.
Coors Light.
Presents Ducks Game Day.
They're going to throw. Wide open. Touchdown, Sadiq. Left-hand front corner of the end zone.
It's time for The Line to Watch, where your hosts predict the score of today's game and get you the latest on the betting lines.
All you got to do is bet on the winner and you'll never lose.
On the Fan Sports Network, 105.1 1080, and the Odyssey app.
All right, last one for us. Went quick, as it always does. Every show, every season, we're getting our food orders in before we're done here. You got to make sure you get some breakfast for the road. Out at Grand Central Bowl Arcade and Sports Bar. Remember, this is the big alumni watch party later this afternoon at 12:30. They got drink specials going on. A quick reminder on those: they got Coors Light specials happening all day. They're Duck Rita, which is a great drink, and it's perfect for a Duck game. Hot Valley, Dane Green IPA. All those drink specials going on here today at Grand Central. And make sure to stick around. The alumni watch party happening. 12:30 is where kick time is at. Final thoughts for us, buddy. I mean, this is it's funny when you get 12 games at the program level that Oregon is at. There's a handful of games every year that just kind of seem like, all right, you go through the motions, right? You know it's an automatic win. Yeah. It's kind of fun to have that anxiety of a big game. There's a lot on the line today for Oregon and Iowa. Your final thoughts and score prediction for today?
Well, I'm happy with this game. It's all about defense.
Yeah, this is your kind of football,
this
man.
This is my kind of football. A 3-0 game? No, I don't think it will be 3-0. I don't think it will be that. But I'm thinking 28-14.
28-14, okay.
Yeah, no, 28-17.
28-17?
Yeah,
okay.
It's going to be. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game. With the weather conditions, it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
They want to run the football. Some turnovers
could be
happen.
Huge. Could be huge.
Yeah, but I think Oregon's they're dynamic on offense. They're going to score some points.
I'll go 24-13. A little bit low scoring than you, but 24-13. What the hell, man? That's a big one for Lanny. Big one for Dante Moore. Get that win today, Oregon. That will do it for us. Everybody enjoy the game. We're going to send you out to Iowa City. Reminder: next Friday we're on the air 2 o'clock for the pregame of Oregon and Minnesota. Thanks so much for tuning in and stopping by and saying hello. Until next time, as always, go Ducks.
This has been Ducks Game Day, presented by Coors Light. Choose chill. Celebrate.